Chapter 16, The Forest of Death Part 2. Sasuke, Hinata, Naruto and Lee all sat cozily inside of an igloo that Haku had made for himself as his main base of operations. An unconscious Neji and Tenten also lay in the small circular room. Things had been quiet for a while since Haku had vanished. They were hoping he would come back soon with a report on Gai-sensei. Finally, after what felt like hours of waiting, though it had actually only been minutes, Haku returned through a mirror of ice located in the top of the igloo. So, did he beat that snake bastard good? Naruto asked excitedly. Haku smiled brightly and gave them the thumbs up. Situation handled. I knew he would do it. Lee pumped his fist triumphantly. Neji and Tenten both stirred slightly but neither of them got up. Perhaps we should keep it down for them, Hinata whispered. Everyone else nodded in agreement. So what happens now? Sasuke asked after a few moments of silence. Surely my team will be compensated or given a handicap for this. Haku shook his head sadly. As it happens, there is an article pertaining exactly to this type of situation in the Chunin exam guidebook I had to read before I could proctor. It states that while it is unfortunate, it is considered just bad luck, and on the field bad luck can sometimes happen. The fact that we survived by managing to call outside help just happened to be good luck. That's the way the rules look at it. TCH, how stupid. Sasuke already wasn't liking this exam and they had only been here for a few hours. Well, at the very least give me my scroll back. You still have ours too. Naruto quickly added. Haku scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. About that? Are you freaking kidding me? Sasuke yelled as he slammed his hand on the ground. Why the hell not? Let me explain. Haku held his hands in front of himself in defense. The scrolls have a one-time charge. Once you open it, the seal is completed and can't be used again. The scrolls you had are now useless. You can get us new ones though, right? Naruto asked hopefully. The look on Haku's face told him he wasn't going to like the answer. We prepare the scrolls specifically for the exam depending on the number of people that pass. Not even I can get at the remaining scrolls. Unfortunately, it comes down to the same thing as before. I'm sorry. Do not worry about. We might not have survived if not for your quick thinking. Lee stared at the ceiling of the igloo. What about that guy? He had a heaven scroll. Another contestant took it after aiding your sensei. Since he was a contestant I had no right to stop him and he risked his life by doing what he did. Haku sighed heavily. I am sorry. I wish there was some way I could be of help to you. Providing you this base to recover in is about the most I can manage for now. Not like we're hurt anyways. Naruto drummed his fingers on the ground as he thought. We're just sticking around to see if more people show up to attack Sasuke and his team. It'll be a good way for us to earn scrolls if someone actually does show up. Damn it. Why did this happen? Sasuke smashed his fist against the side of the igloo in irritation. Why the hell was it us? Perhaps it was fate. Sasuke's eyes widened and he looked up at the person who had spoken. Hinata was staring right at him, a cruel calmness in her eyes. Regardless of what happened, you guys need a plan. Are you just going to sit in this igloo until morning? Haku was looking around at the four conscious genin seriously. We will stay here until tomorrow morning. If no one comes by then we shall go searching for our own scrolls. Lee looked to both of his teammates and they nodded their heads in agreement to his plan. Well, I'll leave you all to discuss your plans more thoroughly. I have to monitor the exam some more. Haku stood up and vanished into the mirror. A moment of silence followed before Naruto voiced up. We should split up to cover more ground then. I'll leave a clone with each of you so just pop him if something happens. They all began discussing their plans until Sasuke suddenly slammed his fist against the igloo again. Are you guys stupid? We're both down to no scrolls thanks to an unjust system. Are you really okay with that? He looked each of them in the eyes one by one. To his surprise, they all seemed completely sure of themselves. He didn't understand. Why are you still whining about something in the past? Sasuke stared at Naruto in disbelief. Was he about to be lectured by the dead last? Yeah, we lost the scrolls but we're alive. As long as I can still crawl I intend to pass this exam. What about you, Sasuke? Those words haunted the last Uchiha the rest of the day and most of the night. What did you say? Sarutobi asked as he stood up and slammed his hands on the table. Orochimaru infiltrated the village and attacked a group of Konoha genin. Guy said, nimbly sitting on a chair. His whole body felt like it was on fire from opening up so many gates, but he had to make this report. I was summoned into the forest by their scrolls and engaged him in battle. He's dead now. Sarutobi opened and closed his mouth several times, something Might Guy had never seen before. Finally, the Hokage seemed to regain some composure. Bird, rat, dog. I want you to the location immediately. Guy felt the presence of the three Anbu leave in a hurry. What was he doing here? Sarutobi asked as he slumped down into his chair. I apologize, Hokage-sama. I was too focused on trying to survive the battle. I didn't interrogate him at all. I also failed to spare his life. Guy attempted to stand up to bow, but instead he cringed from the pain shooting through his body. The Hokage shook his head. He never would have talked anyways. Furthermore, it is a miracle you managed to survive at all, let alone kill him. He had been heavily injured before I had shown up. Both my team and Kakashi's had been engaged in battle with him, not to mention Haku had been fighting as well. Guy had a faraway look as he spoke. Yakushi Kabuto. He aided me in landing the killing blow. Do you know him? Sarutobi pulled at his beard. The head surgeon's son, I believe. He was the only one found alive on a battlefield some years ago. That's all I really remember. Compared to his famous past, he doesn't really stick out much. Guy rolled the thought around in his head for a few moments. Eventually, he decided against mentioning about the feeling he had when he had been talking to Kabuto. It was probably nothing anyways. After all, he had helped him win the battle. My team isn't going to be able to get a new scroll, are they? Unfortunately, this exam is now the least of my worries. I'm sorry, Guy. Sarutobi tilted his hat towards the youthful man. No, that's okay. They'll pull through. I know it. Day 2. Sabaku Q. Gaara said impassively as he closed his hands. The man encased in Gaara's sand could only scream as he was crushed to death and his insides were spilled everywhere. How disgusting, Kiba spoke lowly from his hiding spot in the bushes. He looked to his two teammates. Hey, we should get out of here. Shino nodded in agreement, but Sakura didn't make a single move. Instead she sat there trembling. Hey, Sakura, come on, we gotta get out of here. Kiba shook her shoulder slightly. Sakura gave no outward reaction, instead she kept staring at the blood that was still raining onto the snowy ground. Hey, no, stop, don't kill us too. Kiba spun his attention back to the other two. Aim ninja. They were now also encased in the redhead's sand. No please, we'll do anything you want. The two of them were in hysterics as they screamed for mercy. Gaara ignored their pleas as he rose them up into the air. Stop screwing with us. We'll team up with you. We have an earth scroll, just take it. Sabaku Q. Kiba wasn't sure what happened. But 1 second Sakura was laying in the bush next to him and the next she was in plain sight of those crazy Suna ninja. Stop it. Can't you hear them? She shouted too late. They were already dead. Silence followed her outburst on both sides. What the hell? Kankuro finally managed to say. After that, everything sprang into motion. Temari ran forward and pulled out her fan. Kiba and Shino jumped from their hiding places and grabbed Sakura. Temari swung her fan. Team 8 jumped out of the way just in time and started making a run for it. Damn it, after them. Temari yelled. She quickly took into the trees after the group. Gaara. Kankuro shouted. You stay here and look for the scroll. You leave that group to us. They might have a heaven scroll, which we need. Gaara said nothing, but he glared evilly at his older brother. Kankuro shivered a little before he ran off too. Well. Looks like we lucked out and found us a group of newbies. Wouldn't you say, Yoroi? I think, you're right, Masumi. TCH, troublesome. Shikamaru said lazily as he stood up from where he was sitting. I told you guys a fire would draw unnecessary attention. Don't you criticize us. It's freaking cold, you lazy bastard. Ino shouted as she too stood up. And Choji, quit stuffing your face. Enemies are here already. Choji quickly finished his bag of chips before he wordlessly stood up as well. Well, this should be fun. The one called Yoroi said as he cracked his knuckles and stepped forward. Wait a second there, Shikamaru said, holding his hand up. If I'm not mistaken, isn't your third teammate Kabuto? What of it? Masumi asked. Well, I'm just saying, but I doubt he would want you guys attacking us, being first-timers and all. Shikamaru shrugged. Don't think we give a damn what he has to say. Yoroi shouted as he charged with a kunai drawn. He stopped within 10 feet of his opponent and hunched over slightly. Yoroi, what's wrong? Masumi edged forward slightly. I can't move. What kind of jutsu is this? Kajimane no jutsu, successful. Shikamaru let out a small smirk. You bastard. When did you weave this jutsu? When I was still sitting down. I had my back to you guys, after all. Shikamaru explained lazily as he watched his free opponent carefully. Unfortunately for you, I now know to attack from a distance. The man pulled out several shuriken. Dodge this. He suddenly froze up too. Then his body collapsed. Masumi, what the hell happened? Yoroi couldn't turn his head to see. Here you go. Shikamaru turned his head for him. Yoroi watched as Masumi slowly stood back up. Well, looks like I made it. Masumi laughed aloud. Masumi, what are you talking about? Yoroi wasn't sure what was going on anymore. Let me explain. Shikamaru turned his head back straight. You see how my teammate's unconscious behind me? You don't mean. Yep, she's invaded your friend's mind. Now it's 3-on-1, what are you going to do? Yoroi grimaced from behind his mask. I'm going to kill you all. He roared. Suddenly his body started jerking slightly. Shit. Ino, Choji. He's breaking free. Shikamaru shouted just as he lost the jutsu completely. Yoroi then charged at him. Nikuden Sensha. Choji roared as his body inflated. His head and limbs popped inside his clothes and he started rolling at a great velocity towards his opponent. Damn. Yoroi dove out of the way of the ball. Before he was flattened. When he got up his hand was glowing blue. Don't try anything funny. Masumi's body roared as he jumped at his teammate. Yoroi dodged his punch and delivered a strong kick to his teammate's chin. Blood flew from his mouth as he stumbled backwards. At that same moment, blood flew from Ino's mouth. Interesting. Yoroi said aloud as Choji came rolling back through. This time when he jumped out of the way he lightly tapped onto Choji's side. The ball veered out of control a little. On his way back through, Yoroi did the same thing. Choji was wobbling terribly now. Oi, Choji, leave it to Ino. His hand is doing something strange to your chakra. Shikamaru called. Gotcha. Choji stopped rolling and popped out as his normal self, panting heavily. So what are you going to do, Yoroi? You can't kill your teammate, now can you? Ino taunted as she slowly approached her foe. I'm onto your game. Yoroi stood his ground. Any damage my teammate takes, your real body takes. What a disappointing ability. Ino stopped in her tracks. You wouldn't really kill your friend, would you? Yoroi took advantage of her sudden pause and charged. Ino didn't have a chance as he grabbed and twisted her arm and slammed his teammate's body into the ground. I'll tell you now, you chose the wrong body to enter when you chose his. How about I show you why? Yoroi suddenly kicked in his teammate's elbow and snapped the arm backwards. No. Shikamaru shouted as he heard Ino's elbow snap. What the hell? Ino shouted in confusion. That didn't hurt at all. Yoroi let arm go and it snapped right back into place. That's right. Masumi's body is special. Too bad your body doesn't seem to share its attributes. Yoroi grabbed his teammate's leg and gave a mighty twist. Ino, leave the body. Shikamaru shouted as he watched his teammate's leg spin unnaturally. Shikamaru, I'm sorry. Ino shouted before Masumi's body went limp again. Damn, and I was going to go for the neck this time. Yoroi laughed as his real teammate started to stand back up. Took you long enough, asshole. Don't be so rough with my body next time. Masumi cracked a few of his bones. Ino suddenly gave a great cry of anguish as her mind returned to her body. Hey, serves you right, bitch. Yoroi chuckled. I believe it's 2-on-2 now. Shikamaru scoffed. You'll pay for that. He quickly ran through his hand seals. His shadow then sprang to life and charged the two older genin. Sorry, but we won't be caught by that again. Both of them jumped back. Instead I think we'll take our time with Fatso over there. What the hell did you call me? Choji screamed. Oops, looks like we hit a pressure point. Sorry, but I won't let you guys escape. Shikamaru said as he neared his opponents with great speed. What the when did he get so fast? Shikamaru's shadow hit them just as he quit running. While those leg weights are usually a pain in the ass, they definitely help for when I need to surprise someone. Shikamaru gestured to a set of weights he'd left in the snow behind him. Gonna have to tell Guy-sensei he taught me something useful after all. Alright, Choji. Nail them good. Definitely. Choji roared, already in his ball form and rolling towards the enemy. No one gets away with calling me fat. Whoa there, big guy. Kabuto suddenly appeared in front of Choji with one hand raised, instantly stopped in his tracks. Choji! Shikamaru screamed. He didn't dare move though for fear of releasing his targets. No worries, Shikamaru-kun. I simply stopped him from crushing my teammates. I'd hate to have to repeat again because they died, you know. Shikamaru studied him closely. He could have sworn he saw Kabuto's hand glow just a moment before he stopped Choji. Maybe he was wrong. I know what you mean, however, your guys attacked us first. Yes, I apologize. I'll be sure to scold them. Kabuto sent a glare to his two teammates. You guys are always so overconfident. That's what gets you into trouble. When you're going to defeat an opponent, do it precisely. Like this. With a flick of his wrist, 3 separate kunai plunged deeply into Shikamaru's torso. Shit. Shikamaru stumbled back and dropped his jutsu. Now don't worry, I kept him quite alive. So you can torture him as much as you want. Although I'd start with the fat one. I cut his voice box with my chakra no mesu, but once he's over the shock he'll be quite capable of fighting. Kabuto continued lecturing his teammates as if nothing had happened. You bastard. Shikamaru slowly started to sit back up. He grabbed a kunai and began to pull it from his body. I wouldn't do that, if I were you, Shikamaru-kun. Kabuto walked up to him and bent down. You see, if you pull it out, the blood will run more freely. How about I help you and put it in a little deeper? Kabuto grabbed the handle and gave it a slight twist. Shikamaru let out a scream of pain. Oh, I'm sorry, perhaps I was a little too rough. Kabuto smirked maliciously as he reached into Shikamaru's pouch. Here it is. Kabuto pulled out his scroll. Ah, an Earth one too. Just what I was looking for. Thank you, Shikamaru-kun. Kabuto stood back up and walked over to his teammates. Don't take too long. Something big has happened. I'm going to meet with Sakin's team now and I've already deployed Dosus. Kabuto whispered to them before he took off into the trees. Both of them gave small chuckles. Guess we should start with the fat one then. Yoroi asked. As if I'd listen to that guy. No, I'm gonna have some fun with this shadow manipulating bastard. Masumi answered as he made his way over to his target. Damn it, come on, Shikamaru, think. Try as he might, the lazy boy couldn't get his body to move. Typical, being it was the one time he actually wanted it to. Take this dog boy. Tamari shouted as she gave another wave of her fan as she chased after Kiba. Just like before, with each wave, limbs of trees were chopped into pieces and sent tumbling to the ground. Kiba, again, narrowly dodged the torrent of death. You're crazy, you know that. Kiba roared as another gale approached him. Ah, shit. He took cover behind one of the massive trees. I hope Sakura and Shino are doing better against that cat guy than I am here. Akamaru gave a slight whine from the inside of his jacket. You know what, that's not a bad idea. Kiba responded back to the dog. I may get a little cut up but it might work. Don't just talk to yourself. Kiba dropped to his feet as Tamari used the fan like a mallet and slammed it against the tree where his head had just been. As Kiba rolled away he dropped a couple of smoke bombs that went off. Are you screwing with me? Tamari opened her fan and blew all the smoke away with one mighty swing. Kiba was nowhere in sight. TCH, what kind of man are you? Running away from a girl like this isn't chivalrous at all. Fine, then I'll face you head on. Tamari turned to see a giant gray drill flying at her. Gatsuga. Kiba roared as Tamari rolled out of the way. Kiba barely missed but Tamari still felt her clothes tear slightly. That's more like it. Tamari shouted as she readied her fan. Kiba came spinning back around. Take this. She gave her fan another big swing. Kiba ran straight into the wind this time. At first he seemed like he was going to be able to drill clear through it. But then he started to wobble and then he veered off completely. Kiba slammed painfully into the ground. Damn, Kiba said as he slowly started to rise to his feet. He didn't get far as Temari's metal fan slammed into his ribs. Time's up, Temari said as she brought her fan above her head. Kiba gave a cough of blood. Yeah, for you it is, he said triumphantly. Temari had no time to ask what he meant as another drill slammed into her body from the back. She gave a scream of pain as the drill picked her up off her feet and then slammed her into a nearby tree. She fell limply to the ground as the second drill was revealed to be another, more feral-looking Kiba. In a poof of smoke, Akamaru was standing there instead. Nice going, Akamaru, Kiba called while he limped up to his nin dog. The dog gave a bark before it walked up to him whimpering. Nah, I'm fine. She did nail me good but nothing that won't heal. She, on the other hand, won't be up for a week. Kiba gave a loud laugh but then quickly gripped his ribs in pain. Akamaru gave another whimper to show its concern. We need to worry about our teammates for now. We'll take care of it later. Suddenly the sound of feet crunching on the snow reached their ears. They both turned their heads up and gave a big sniff. Crap, it's that face paint guy. We gotta hide, fast. Kiba limped over to a group of nearby fallen branches and quickly nestled his way inside them. Just as he did, Kankuro came running out into the clearing. Damn it, where'd those brats go? He scanned around the area for a minute. Then he caught sight of his downed sister. Temari, Temari, he shouted and quickly began to run over to her. As he neared her he felt something funny starting to happen. Was the world distorting? No, it was more like it was spinning. The hell? Kankuro held his head as the world began to spin faster and faster. Genjutsu, Kankuro snapped his eyes shut and focused hard. When he opened them back up the world was right again. He quickly ran over to his sister, picked her up and ran out of the clearing. Don't worry, I'll get you to a safe spot. Once I do, I'll take care of those guys. His sister stirred slightly. Oh. She whispered slowly. Yeah, it's me. Here, I'm gonna set you down. Kankuro stopped jogging and leaned her up against a tree. You wait right here. I'll knock these bastards out. He turned to head out but Temari grabbed a hold of his pant leg. Wait, I'll come with you. She slowly stood back up. What? No way. Kankuro turned around to face her. You're hurt. I know you want Riven. Kankuro was cut off as a kunai was run through his heart. Wah, T. He stumbled backwards slightly. Temari gave him a small, sweet smile. With a poof of smoke, Sakura took her place. Why you bitch? Kankuro stumbled backwards a little farther. Where's my sister? Sakura shrugged. Beats me. After I threw the genjutsu on you, I hanged and took her place. Shino dragged her real body off somewhere. But are you sure you want those to be your last words? Kankuro grimaced and stumbled back a little more. Gay, I'll kill you. He pulled out a kunai and staggered forward. Before he got more than even a few inches, Sakura threw another kunai into his forehead. Kankuro jerked to a stop. His mouth slowly twisted up into a wicked smile. What the hell? Sakura took back a couple steps as sand began to pour off of Kankuro's body. Soon, a wooden puppet was revealed. The mummy on the puppet's back unraveled and the real Kankuro jumped from it. Too bad for you, whore. Now you're mine. The puppet's hand twisted up and several needles flew from it. Sakura jumped out of the way. The puppet dove after her, a spike extending from its arm. Sakura rolled backwards and narrowly dodged it. Next the head popped off. It flew at her with its mouth open and another needle poised to strike. Sakura gave a scream and shielded her eyes. To her surprise and relief, the pain never came. When she opened her eyes, the puppet head was suspended in midair, inches from her face. What the hell are these things? Sakura looked past the head to see Kankuro being overwhelmed by insects. I never thought I'd be happy to see a bug in my life. Sakura said as she stood up and walked around the puppet's head. You're late, Shino. Moving a body takes time. I had to ascertain a good location to stow her. Shino said stepping out from behind one of the big trees. You couldn't just dump her on the other side of the tree. Sakura asked in annoyance. That would be ill-advised. We could use her as collateral. Perhaps we can talk that Gaara into trading the scroll for her life. If I just left her anywhere, there was a chance Gaara or another team would locate her. We would then lose what little advantage we have. Shino's explanation was met with exhausted laughter from Kankuro. Trade. With Gaara. It'll never work. He'd let you kill her and then he'd kill you. Life isn't important to that guy. You might as well run now. You'll never beat him. Kankuro tried to stand up but immediately failed. Just run while you can. Shino took his words into consideration for a moment. His words are disturbing. He concluded. Doesn't matter how disturbing they are. They have an Earth scroll. We got heaven. We'll never get another opportunity like this. Kiba stumbled into the clearing. Besides, it's 4-on-1. There's no way we can lose. Don't be so rash, Kiba. We can't just charge into this. If this guy is as dangerous as he says, we need a plan. Sakura scolded her teammate. There's no time to make a plan. Kiba shouted. And why not? Sakura yelled back. Because he's already here, was Shino's response. Sakura looked to her teammate and then at where he was looking. Her blood ran cold. There he was. The crazy killer who slaughtered people without mercy. Sakura automatically took 2 steps back. Don't back out on us, Sakura. We're a team. We can take this guy. Together. Sakura quit backing up. Kiba, she whispered. She then looked to Shino. He stood at the ready. They were going to fight. She couldn't let them down. She had worked too hard with Kurenai-sensei to do that. Sakura swallowed and steeled her nerves. You're right, I'm sorry. Hey, don't sweat it. That's what I'm here for. Kiba formed a hand seal and Akamaru transformed into a perfect copy of him. You defeated my brother and sister. Gaara spoke for the first time. You should be especially tasty. His sand came alive and flung itself at them. Shikamaru let out another roar of pain as Masumi snapped yet another finger backwards. Choji watched in mute horror from his position on the ground. Yoroi sat on top of him, his foot planted on his face. His hands slowly sucking the chakra from his body. Ino lay unconscious, neither man had touched her yet. Hey, this is too much fun. What bone should I snap next, huh, Shikamaru-kun? Masumi laughed cruelly. Go to hell, Shikamaru said between clenched teeth. What was that, punk? Masumi socked Shikamaru right in the chin, slamming his face into the ground. I was being nice, giving you a few extra minutes in this world. But I'm not so sure you have the right attitude. Maybe I should just snap your neck right here. Masumi grabbed onto his throat. Shika, Choji's voice called out just lightly, tears streaming freely from his eyes and into the snow. Say goodiebe, Konoha senpu. Masumi was sent flying as a powerful spinning kick connected with his gut. What the hell? Yoroi immediately got off of Choji as the new visitor appeared. A kid in a disturbing white spandex. Lee, Shikamaru whispered. Do not worry, Shikamaru-kun. I will pay these guys back tenfold for what they have done to you. Shikamaru had never seen Lee so angry. Before, he couldn't help but smile a little. Things would be okay with him here. Yeah, knock him dead for me. Sasuke sat alone inside the igloo. Not entirely alone, Neji and Tenten were still there but unconscious. No one had shown up and as planned, Team Guy had cleared out, leaving Sasuke alone to his thoughts. What do I plan to do? He asked himself the same question over and over again. He was beginning to realize how weak of a person he actually was. Tenten and Neji were so much stronger than him. They had fought their all against the Sannin while he had stayed back in fear of the greater foe. Just like it had been with his brother. Now he was again frozen in fear from going out into the forest on his own. The 3 of them had gone separate ways without a fear in the world, but he couldn't take that first step. So he was stuck here inside the igloo, waiting for his teammates to recover. Guess I'm on my own if anyone from the exam actually shows up then. A sudden crack alerted Sasuke's attention. He took a quick peek around outside. He had no doubt that his team was well hidden, but he still couldn't take any chances. To his horror, a team stood in the clearing right outside his base. By the looks of things, the team was from Otogakure. Oh, Sasuke. The taller male called. Come out of there. We'd like to have a chat with you. Sasuke ducked down. Shit, how did they find us? We could also hear you talking to yourself a mile away. You shouldn't underestimate our abilities. Orochimaru taught us himself. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise. He emerged from the safety of their hideout and approached the Oto team in the clearing. What, your boss too weak to handle me himself? He jeered. The girl laughed. As if. More like he's too busy now. He told us to find and capture you. He doesn't care what happens to your teammates anymore. You must have really set him off. Sasuke smiled slightly. It would appear they weren't aware their leader had even died. Someone else must be calling the shots while taking advantage of their ignorance. The proctor won't be able to help you. We are actual participants in the exam. Sasuke already knew that this time. Afraid it's just you and us. The mummy-like boy charged at him. Sasuke shifted into his fighting stance and activated his Sharingan. The boy swung and Sasuke stepped back, dodging his blow. Sasuke spun around and clocked the boy in the head with a powerful kick. Got you, Sasuke said before his vision started to blur. And you. The mummy-like boy responded as Sasuke hunched over and barfed. Hey, how pathetic. Zaku brought up one of his arms. Suddenly a stream of air fired from it and slammed into Sasuke, knocking him clear into a tree. I don't even see why Orochimaru-sama wants this guy. He's worthless compared to us. Sasuke cursed as he attempted to get up. Why was it always like this? He performed so well in academics, but when he got into the actual field he always seemed to fail. Zaku. Kin. Get down. Dosu roared. Zaku dropped down just in time, but Kin didn't react fast enough. An arrow flew through the back of her head and exited out the front. Her brains were scattered everywhere as her body fell limply to the ground. Dosu rose his arm up and deflected a third arrow that would have taken his head as well. Kin. Zaku roared. Who the hell are you? He spun around looking for the one who killed his teammate. Huh, show yourself. He fired a shot of air randomly into the trees. Hinata, Sasuke said weakly as he stumbled to his feet. His eyes slowly began to harden in resolve. I'm tired of needing to be saved. Sakura quickly formed a group of seals before she barely dodged Gaara's whip of sand. Gatsuga. Kiba roared as he and Akamaru slammed into his sand. Defense again. They were both easily batted away. What the hell, Sakura? I thought you were putting him in a genjutsu. Kiba shouted as he stumbled up from where he landed. I did, but it's like the sand has a mind of its own. Sakura cried as she slid around several more sand whips. What about you, Shino? I don't see your insects doing anything. That has got to be taking up chakra. Kiba jumped out of the way of sand that was directed at him. I just dispatched a group of my insects and they were exterminated on contact. There might not be much I can do to aid us in this fight. Shino rolled under a whip that had been aimed to trip him. Damn it, then how the hell are supposed to win this one? Kiba roared. A hand of sand suddenly shot out and managed to grab a hold of him. Disappear. Gaara whispered and closed his hand. Kiba. Sakura shouted as she started to run for her teammate. She wasn't going to get there in time. Fortunately, Akamaru managed to drill through it in time, setting Kiba free. Thanks, bud. Kiba shouted as he jumped away. It is apparent that there is no winning, Shino said as he rolled up next to Sakura. Then what do we do? Sakura asked as she looked at her teammate. We give up, Shino said calmly as he stood up. We surrender Gaara-san. No more, he shouted across the clearing. All the sand suddenly stopped. What the hell did you just say? Kiba yelled from atop a branch. Don't be an imbecile, Kiba. He is clearly far superior to us. Shino reached into his pocket and pulled out their scroll. Here is our scroll. It happens to be the one you need. We'll hand it over to you along with the location of your sister in return for letting us go. Gaara laughed in response. Shino pushed up his glasses in irritation. I am making a serious proposition. Gaara's laughing immediately ceased. A scary moment of silence rang over the forest. I don't care about your offer. The only thing I want is blood. His sand shot forward and grabbed a hold of Shino. Shino. Sakura screamed as she latched onto him and pulled him back. The only thing left was his arm when Gaara closed his hand. With a sickening crunch and a scream from Shino and the scroll along with his arm were gone. Damn it. He was trying to negotiate with you, asshole. What right did you have to steal his arm? Kiba roared and charged at his target of rage. Gaara's sand immediately intercepted him. No, Kiba. Someone save him. Sakura cried again. Akamaru wasn't close enough this time. Suiten. Mizurappa no Jutsu. A wave of water suddenly rose up and before anyone knew what was happening, washed away Gaara and his sand. Kiba, you okay? Naruto said as he landed next to him. Naruto. What are you doing here? What does it look like? I'm saving your asses, Naruto said as he smiled triumphantly. Who said I wanted to be saved by you? Kiba put his forehead right up against Naruto's. What was that, dog breath? Naruto returned Kiba's glare. Idiots. Move. Sakura yelled. Huh. They both turned to see a giant tree branch flying at them. Oh, shit. They both jumped in an opposite direction to get out of the way. How interesting, so we actually did meet here today. Naruto's blood ran cold as Gaara slowly walked back into the clearing, a huge, deranged grin on his face. This makes me so happy that I get to kill you today, Uzumaki Naruto. What the hell is this guy talking about? Kiba looked back and forth between Naruto and the red-headed maniac. Did you do something to piss him off? Naruto managed a tight-lipped smile. Something like that. He glanced briefly over to where Shino and Sakura were. He then looked back to Kiba. Get your teammates and get them out of here. Kiba gave him a furious stare. Don't tell me what to do. You think I'm just gonna leave you to fight this guy on your own? Before Naruto could respond, another giant log slammed into his body and carried him off. Naruto. Kiba stared at the spot the boy had been with huge eyes. You bastard. He spun to the redhead. He wasn't even paying attention. What's your problem? I'm not interested in your talk. I want to kill him now. Gaara said impassively. That does it. You've hurt too many people. Kiba went to take a step forward but a hand on his shoulder stopped him. Calm down, Kiba. I'm all right. He spun around. Naruto stood right next to him, completely unharmed. To further Kiba's surprise, he was holding Kankuro's semi-conscious body. Wah. How? Kiba fumbled for the proper words. Just 1 second, I'll explain. Naruto walked past Kiba and looked straight at Gaara. He then held up his hand with only his index finger extended. 1 minute, Gaara. I'll fight you in 1 minute. Silence rang across the clearing. Kiba was baffled. This guy couldn't be reasoned with. Why would he listen to anything Naruto had to say? You have 50 seconds left. Kiba's mouth hit the ground. Gaara was giving him the minute. Naruto wasted no time. He spun around and gave Kiba a hard look. It was a shadow clone. I have another one next to your teammates. Kiba spun back to see another Naruto talking to Sakura. He's telling her to take Shino and run as we speak. They'll need someone to keep them safe. Naruto looked purposefully at him. No way. I can't let you fight this maniac by yourself. Do you have any idea how strong this guy is? Kiba shouted in exasperation. I do. Naruto's blunt reply shocked Kiba silent. But you have to trust me, I'm the only one who can take him. We understand each other. Kiba gave him a baffled stare. Understand each other, he said skeptically. How can anyone understand that guy? Just leave it to me, Kiba. Naruto ignored his question. Take care of your team. Kiba. They both turned to look at Sakura. Don't listen to Naruto. Just stay with him. The two of us will be okay. Without waiting for an answer, Sakura hoisted Shino by his one arm and started running out of the clearing with him. Kiba smirked and turned to see Naruto staring at his teammates with his mouth agape. I understand your good intention but we won't let you take this guy by yourself. Naruto turned an annoyed glare back to him. Then you and your mutt take care of this guy. Naruto threw Kankuro to a surprised Kiba. Kiba barely caught his heavy body. What do I look like, your luggage boy? I don't want him to get caught up in this. I know it's hard for you to think about right now, but I think this guy was just as afraid of Gaara as you are. Kiba stared hard at Naruto for a few seconds. If things start to get messy, we're jumping in without hesitation. Kiba jumped up to a nearby branch. Akamaru was right on his tail. Sounds like a plan. Naruto took a deep breath and slowly turned back towards his opponent. Gaara stood there patiently. If you had any second thoughts about what I said yesterday, now's your chance. We don't have to do this, Gaara. I already gave you my answer, and your minute's up. Chapter 17. The Forest of Death Part 3. The sand from Gaara's gourd sprang to life. Naruto began running through hand signs. Suiben no jutsu. The snow around Naruto's feet instantly turned to water and a stream spiraled around his body. It's your move. Gaara said nothing as a whip of sand shot forward. Naruto's water whip adjusted accordingly. Gaara's whip slapped into it with brute force. Water splashed everywhere but the sand was halted in its tracks. Naruto's water knocked it out of the way and then fired forward. More sand rose from Gaara's gourd and blocked the water before it was able to reach him. Neither combatant had moved even an inch. Interesting, Uzumaki Naruto. You plan to use that water the same way I use my sand. Gaara continued to stare impassively at his opponent. Naruto shrugged. If you can't beat him, join him. Gaara again didn't respond as 3 whips of sand shot forward from his gourd. Naruto ran through more seals. 2 can play at that game. 4 whips of water flew from the snow. 3 intercepted Gaara's whips and 1 continued forward. A wall of sand stood in front of Gaara, blocking it. Soon a shuriken. Blades of sand began firing in rapid succession. Naruto ran through more seals. Suiten. Sujinheki no Jutsu. A wall of water rose in front of himself, but Naruto didn't stop there. Suiten. Mizu Shuriken no Jutsu. Water pellets to match Gaara's sand were fired off from the wall. Sand and water slammed into each other relentlessly. Meanwhile, Naruto was already running through more hand signs. Suiten. Suiben no Jutsu. More whips rose up and traveled forward, skirting the outside the range of the shuriken fire. They both went to strike Gaara from either side. To Naruto's irritation, more sand rose to deflect them. Gaara's sand immediately went on the offensive and copied Naruto's trick. Naruto grit his teeth and rose his whips back up to block the quickly flying whips. This was getting him nowhere fast. He was going to have to improvise to gain any ground here. Naruto took a quick chance to glance around to his surroundings. Something immediately caught his eye. This'll work. One of Naruto's whips grabbed a splintered piece of wood from one of the massive branches. It then hurled it towards his opponent. Just before it hit, the sand blocked it and let it fall uselessly to the floor next to his feet. Naruto. You're running out of water. Look out. Kiba's warning came too late as Naruto used up the last of the water in his current vicinity. What was left of his wall fired off into shuriken and his whips dribbled out of existence. Now nothing stood between him and an array of firing sand. Naruto wasn't given a chance to move as his body was torn apart by the razor-sharp blades of sand. Pathetic. Who's pathetic? Gaara's eyes widened in surprise. He didn't have a chance to turn to the voice as a fist slammed into his face. Gaara rose his arm up to get his sand to defend him. Don't even try it. Another fist slammed into his stomach. Naruto then jumped and delivered a spinning kick to his opponent's face, cracking it, knocking him down, and pushing him back away from the protection of his sand. However, Naruto was still in the middle of it all. It rose up in a dome around him and compressed inwards. Gaara stared at the dome for a second. No blood or screaming came from it. He slowly stood up. I see, that's how it is. He turned back to where Naruto had been standing when their duel began. He was still there, as if nothing had happened. Kawarimi no Jutsu. That's right. Naruto grinned happily. It worked like a charm. You let that log sit right next to you, inside your guard. I swapped in, knocked your ass around, and then swapped right back out. Pretty genius if I say so myself. Gaara stared at him silently. The cracks in his face were slowly repairing. I guess that armor of sand you were wearing meant you were prepared for it though. It hurt like a bitch to punch you. Naruto shook the hand he had used to punch Gaara with. Naruto, behind you, you idiot. Spikes of sand pierced Naruto through the torso before the boy could even turn around. He stood there gasping for air for a few moments before bursting into smoke. Don't think I'd pick the same spot to stand. Gaara turned to his right. Naruto was charging right at him again. His sand instantly rose to his defense. But Naruto dodged and rolled out of the way. He made it within Gaara's guard and landed another punch on the boy's chin. Naruto then back-flipped away before the sand struck him from behind. How? Gaara asked as he stumbled back to his feet. More cracks were present on his face. Come on Gaara. Don't tell me you're surprised. Naruto rolled out of the way of the sand and into Gaara's guard again. With 2 quick jabs to the chin, Naruto dove out of the way again. Gaara's armor broke away completely now. You weighed the sand down with your water. Gaara spat out. Yep, normally, I wouldn't be fast enough to run around it like this, but with your sand this heavy, there's no way I'm going to get caught. Naruto slipped back into the guard and aimed another punch at Gaara's chin. The boy managed to raise his arm just in time to block the blow, but he was still sent spinning to the ground. Oh, so you know how to block a punch after all. Naruto laughed as he danced backwards through the sand again. Without warning his feet suddenly sunk into the ground. Gaara smirked evilly as the sand slowly rose him up. You can use that stuff to fly. Naruto tugged as hard as he could but he couldn't get his feet out. Instead he began to sink deeper. You will sink down 50 meters where the pressure will without a doubt crush your body. Gaara said. Even if you do escape before that happens, you will be forced to fight from the trees as I have turned all the ground in the immediate vicinity to such a substance. Let's see your fist reach me now, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto grit his teeth at his opponent. Damn you, Gaara. So which one of you should I beat to a pulp first? Lee asked as he finished cracking his knuckles. You bastard, Masumi slowly leaned himself up from the tree he had been slammed into. I'm going to kick your ass. Now, Masumi. Why don't you let me have a go at this one? Yoroi stepped in between his partner and the spandex-clad genin. No freaking way. I owe the bastard one. Let me have him. Masumi walked up next to Yoroi. You got to have all the fun torturing Pineapple Head. It's my turn to torture someone. Yoroi glared at his partner through his shaded glasses. TCH, fine, just make it fast. Masumi walked over and plopped down on top of Choji. Get off of him, Lee said as he settled into his stance. What was that, punk? You want to make me? Masumi taunted from his spot. I shall. Lee went to move forward to Yoroi was instantly upon him. Lesson number 1. Never take your eyes off your opponent. Yoroi swung and Lee easily caught his fist. Lesson number 1. Never hurt my friends. Lee bent Yoroi's hand backwards with such force that his wrist broke with an audible snap. Yoroi let out a howl of pain as he attempted to stumble backwards. However, Lee wasn't done just yet. He pulled the masked shinobi forward and drilled his knee right into the man's stomach. A powerful backhanded fist to the face later and he was sent painfully to the floor. Your turn, Lee said to a still confused Masumi. He took a step forward but paused as a hand grabbed onto his ankle. He turned his head and saw a glowing hand that belonged to Yoroi. I got you now, punk. I'll have all your chakra gone in a matter of moments. How do you plan to fight me then? Yoroi let out a small chuckle. Lee stared at his still downed opponent for a moment, pity obvious in his eyes. It is most unfortunate for you. I am the worst kind of enemy you could possibly come up against. Huh. Yoroi looked up at him, clearly confused. I do not make use of chakra. I only use taijutsu. Your technique is just wasted effort on me. Why you're lying. Yoroi slowly stumbled back to his feet. I'll prove it. I've taken enough chakra now that there's no way you'll be able to fight back. Lee stared at him for another long moment. First gate. Open. Die. Yoroi charged at his opponent. Lee vanished from his sight and a second later a foot slammed into his chin from straight below. Yoroi was launched high into the air. As he reached the arc of his fall, Lee appeared behind him, the bandages on his arms already spinning around and ensnaring his opponent. You bastard. Yoroi struggled to break free but to no avail. He could do nothing as Lee grabbed onto him when they began to descend. Omit Renge. Lee cried as they began spinning violently fast. Yoroi was powerless to do anything as his head was slammed into the ground, crushing his skull and shattering his neck. Lee meanwhile, landed nimbly next to his corpse. He settled back into his stance and stared straight at Masumi who still had yet to move. Show yourself. Zaku roared as he continued to fire randomly into the trees. You'll pay for what you did to Kin. I'll rip your throat out. Zaku, you fool. Get down. Dosu tackled his teammate into the ground just as an arrow flew over their heads. Zaku looked up to see another 2 arrows flying towards them. He shot 2 streams of wind at the arrows, shattering them before they got anywhere near them. Now I got you. Zaku settled into a crouch, his hands pointed at the ground. Firing his wind cannon, he was launched high into the air. Zaku fell into the trees and landed on the branch he thought his opponent was at. No use hiding anymore. Zaku cautiously walked along the branch he was on. A small whistling sound reached his ears and Zaku stepped back just in time. The arrow struck right into the branch at his feet, an explosive tag attached to it. Shit. Zaku used his cannons to launch himself skyward again. The explosion was hot on his tail. As he ascended he finally caught sight of the person who had killed his teammate. Zaku turned his cannon and fired at her. Hinata nimbly jumped out of the way, firing another arrow as she did. Zaku pointed his hands behind him and launched himself towards her, dodging out of the way of the arrow as he did. Zaku flew with frightening speed towards his opponent and Hinata had little time to do much other than drop her bow and guard as he rammed into her with all his might. "I got you now, you bitch!" Zaku shouted with glee as he and Hinata rocketed away from the tree and out into the clearing. He brought his arm around and prepared to fire his cannon, but Hinata's palm strike was faster. Zaku gave a cough of blood as they both began descending towards the forest floor. Hinata pushed away from her opponent and landed on the ground with a hard roll, instantly jumping back to her feet. Zaku fired his cannons again, allowing him to gently touch down. Dosu was on her before she even had her bearings. "Take this." Dosu swung a fist towards her. Hinata began spinning instantly. Kaden. Dosu was blown off his feet and knocked back several feet before his fist got anywhere near her. Zaku pointed his hands at her just as her rotation began to lose speed. "Let's see you block this." A foot slammed into the side of his face, knocking him down and keeping him from firing his cannon. "Don't forget that there's two of us," Sasuke said as he lowered his foot. "You bastard." Zaku wiped the trail of blood from his lip as he slowly sat up. He stood back up. "You're both gonna pay." He flung his arm up and fired a cannon. Sasuke was blasted into pieces of mud. He then felt a tight grip on both of his ankles. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Zaku's body was pulled underground until only his head was sticking out as Sasuke appeared from the earth. Zaku struggled for a moment to get free. "Get me outta here, you asshole. You just stay there while we deal with your teammate," Sasuke said as he took off towards where Hinata and Dosu were dueling. "Quit spinning," Dosu shouted as his attack was deflected again. Hinata slowed her spin down again and continued to stare at Dosu. "I'm going to break that barrier yet." Dosu panted in exasperation. "Your attack is quite fearsome, however, there is not way that those sound waves will ever be capable of making it through my rotation. You are just wasting your time," Hinata said as she stepped cautiously around her opponent. "Oh, then why don't you try something other than defending?" Dosu taunted. "Too scared to drop your guard." He ran forward again, his arm poised to strike. Hinata jumped to the side this time, and when she moved, an array of fireballs came into Dosu's line of sight. Crap. Dosu dove to the ground and just barely avoided the deadly volley. Hinata jumped back in an instant, swinging her palm forward. Dosu rose his shielded arm to block. He was unprepared for the pain spike he felt as Hinata's strike connected. He let out a yelp of pain and stumbled backwards, nursing his slowly numbing arm. He didn't even see Sasuke's fist coming until it was buried into his face. Dosu was again ripped from his feet and sent flying to the ground. "Sasuke-san, out of the way." Hinata ran forward and pushed Sasuke out of the way. She then quickly stepped back herself, just before a wave of air went flying through. She whirled and stood so her body was facing an already freed Zaku. Sasuke jumped into place and stood with his back to hers so he was facing Dosu. "So you stuck around in case something happened, huh?" Sasuke turned his head slightly so he could see the back of Hinata. "I didn't do it for you," Hinata said without moving an inch. "Thanks anyways. This is the second one we owe you for," Sasuke said turning back towards a slowly rising Dosu. Hinata didn't say anything for a few moments. "You sound surprisingly humble," she said after finding the right word. "A day in this forest can do that to some people." Hinata didn't respond but Sasuke could swear he heard her nod her head. "He's firing his cannon, can I leave the bandaged one to you?" Hinata asked as she stepped out of the way. Sasuke ducked below the blast of air. "Yeah, we'll talk more when this is done." He charged towards his opponent. "Talk to you then." Hinata mimicked his action. "Hang on Naruto. I'll have you out of there in just a second." Kiba prepared to jump from the branch to go after Naruto. "No. Don't come down here. You'll just get caught too," Naruto said as he continued struggling to get free. "Well, how do you plan to get out of there without help?" Kiba shouted back down to him. "I'm working on it." Naruto was already buried up to his breast and he was sinking faster. His face dawned in realization. "I got it." He formed his favorite seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A string of clones popped up into existence, each one holding the ankles of another, all the way up to the branch Kiba was on. "Okay, guys, go," Naruto shouted as he locked arms with the clone at the end of the chain. The Naruto on the end of the branch jumped backwards off of it. The rest of the clones were yanked backwards and Naruto was instantly pulled free. Each clone slowly popped out of existence until only 4 Narutos were left standing on the branch. Woo. That was close, the original said as he wiped his brow. I really thought I was a goner there. He turned back to Kiba who was staring silently at the blonde. What's up? Do I got something on my face? Naruto looked down and realized half his body was still covered in mud, easily distinguishing him from his clones. How did you do it? Kiba finally asked. Huh, what do you mean? Naruto turned his attention back to the dog owner. How did you get so strong so fast? Last time I saw you, you were the dead last in class clown. Kiba got angry as he spoke. Now you're fighting toe-to-toe with a guy that my whole team couldn't even get close to. A guy that ripped Shino's arm off without even blinking. Kiba stepped forward and grabbed Naruto by the collar. How the hell did you do it? Naruto stared darkly at Kiba for a minute. He grabbed his arms and stepped Kiba away from himself. How? I worked my ass off. Naruto said calmly. I trained nearly every hour I've been awake for a couple months now. I put every ounce of my being into becoming stronger. Now I won't let anyone ever look down on me again. I'll make the whole world acknowledge my existence. Kiba couldn't respond to that. For just a brief moment, he saw the same look in Naruto's eyes that he saw in Gaara's. Loneliness. We gotta move. One of Naruto's clones picked up Kankuro and jumped to another branch. Meanwhile, the rest of the clones took off to their own separate branches. Kiba quickly took off after the original, and just in time too. The branch they were on was obliterated by a wave of sand. That guy doesn't mess around, Naruto said as he slowly pulled out a couple of trench knives. Kiba observed each of his clones pull out copies of the exact same weapon. How do you plan to reach that guy with those knives? You can't even touch the ground. Kiba eyed Naruto's new weapon curiously. I plan to fix both problems in one go. Naruto nodded to all his clones. They each gave him a similar nod. You might want to hold on to something, Naruto said as he jumped down. Wait, what are you going to do? Kiba shouted after him. Akamaru let out a small whine as he took Naruto's advice and latched firmly onto the tree. What are you attempting now? Uzumaki Naruto, Gaara said with mild curiosity as each Naruto turned to the trees and rose their arms into slashing position. Eat this. All 4 Narutos slashed in a wide arc just before they reached the bottom. They then stuck themselves to the tree just a couple feet above the ground. Kiba stared at Naruto as if he'd grown a second head. What the hell was he playing at? Did he go blind or something? Suddenly a strange creaking sound echoed across the whole area. Without warning, all the trees began tipping forward. What? Kiba couldn't even finish his sentence as the tree he was on picked up speed and it's decent. He quickly scampered topside to the tree, Akamaru right behind him. Gaara's eyes widened in surprise as all the trees descended upon him. He could only raise more sand to his defense as they all piled on top of him. After a full minute of creaking and crashing, the trees finally grew silent as they sank partially into the quicksand that Gaara had made earlier. Each Naruto jumped up on the topside of one of the downed trees. One of them was still holding onto Kankuro. The original walked up to Kiba and gave him a nice pat on the back. Told you I had this, Naruto said cheerfully. Did you beat him? Kiba asked in astonishment. He didn't even care what Naruto had done, as long as it finally did the trick. Of course not, Naruto said as he began walking towards the center of the toppled trees. Suddenly they all started rumbling. Sand burst violently from the center of the trees and Gaara slowly emerged from his protective barrier, laughing maniacally. Fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic, Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara's laughter slowly died but a truly wicked grin remained on his face. Killing you will without a doubt transform me into a perfect being. I can hardly wait. Sand fired in violent whips towards Naruto. Naruto raised his chakra knives and slashed at the sand. It split apart and fell uselessly around him. Don't be an idiot, Gaara. You've seen what these knives can do. No matter how tough your guard, there's no way it'll withstand a slash by these. The sand that lay around Naruto turned into spikes and shot upwards. Naruto ducked and swung his blade again. The sand was again split apart. Gaara, please. Can't you see I want to be your friend? You don't have to be lonely anymore. Gaara's sand whipped outwards again and Naruto was forced to roll out of the way and onto a different tree. What would you know about being alone? Gaara yelled. I've seen you surrounded by all those people. By teammates who don't tremble at your very existence. The only thing we have in common is the burden we carry of being a human sacrifice. Sand continued to whip wildly, forcing Naruto to roll closer to Gaara to avoid being struck. You're wrong. I do know what it's like. I was alone most of my life. It is the worst feeling in the world. Naruto rose up and stood completely still. Sand slammed down next to him but he didn't flinch. But it changed when I got a team. I found people who care. A whip of sand slammed into his head, causing blood to run down his face. You can be accepted too. I can help you. Gaara's sand stopped and it all slowly retreated back into his gourd. It's too late for me, Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara said quietly. My hand has been long stained by the blood of others. The sand in his gourd sprung back into life. You hear me, Uzumaki Naruto. It's too late for me. TCH, damn. Naruto dove out of the way as sand again began flinging wildly about. If I can't get you to see reason by talking then I'll just have to beat the shit out of you and shove it in your face. All four Narutos began sprinting towards Gaara, each one rolling and slashing their way through the sand, attempting to get to him. Die already. Gaara roared as a whip made contact with one of the clones, slamming it into the ground and dispelling it. Each Naruto was now only 30 feet away. A couple feet closer and another clone was popped out of existence. Only 2 Narutos remained as they dove closer to their target. Gaara's sand nailed the last clone, popping it as well. Just you and me. All of Gaara's sand switched towards the remaining Naruto. I guess this is gonna have to be close enough. With a great roar, Naruto swung his blade at Gaara. All the sand stopped at once. Time seemed to stand still for everyone. Gaara stared at Naruto with wide eyes. Naruto peered at that sand looming over him. Kiba watched in horror as Naruto appeared to be moments from being crushed to death. Finally, the sand fell harmlessly to the ground around Naruto. The boy let out a sigh of relief as a red slash appeared across Gaara, from his right shoulder to his left hip. Blood sprayed forward and Gaara fell to his knees, still staring at Naruto in shock. What is all this? Gaara's eyes slowly shifted down to the blood around him. What is this strange feeling? Don't worry, I cut you just enough to immobilize you. As long as you don't move around, this won't kill you. Naruto said as crouched down in front of Gaara. It's fortunate I managed to get so close though. The farther away, the harder it is to control the exact length of those wind blades. Naruto, you got him. Kiba shouted as he jogged up to the two of them. Akamaru, still shaped like Kiba, was right next to him. Naruto turned slowly to Kiba and gave him a small smile. Yeah, I got him. So what now? You don't intend to let him live, do you? Kiba had heard most of Naruto's pleas, but wasn't really sure what to make of them. Before Naruto could answer, a blood-curdling scream caused them both to spin around and look at Gaara. He was holding his head, shaking violently, his eyes transfixed on the blood around him. Blood. There's so much of my blood. The sand around them sprang back to life and began to wrap itself tightly around Gaara. What the hell is going on? Kiba said as he took a couple nervous steps back. I don't know. Naruto rose to his feet. Gaara, calm down. It's going to be okay. More incoherent screams was the only answer Naruto received. Without warning, a giant poof of smoke filled the area. When it all cleared, a giant tanuki of sand stood where Gaara had once been. What is that? Kiba whispered as he stared up in horror at the thing that stood as tall as the trees around them. It couldn't be, Naruto said, not even hearing Kiba's question. He transformed into his demon. The giant monster's head shifted slightly to look down at them. Uzumaki Naruto, the creature spoke with Gaara's voice. You'll pay for hurting me in such a way. Die. Gaara roared as he punched at the ground where Naruto and Kiba were. You do not look all that surprised that I just killed your teammate. Lee said as he watched Masumi. Nor upset. He added after a moment of thought. If that idiot was dumb enough to be killed by a single kid, then that's his fault. Masumi said as he got up from off of Choji's back. It has nothing to do with me. Lee's eye twitched slightly. Nothing to do with you. Lee repeated slowly. He was your teammate. How can you be so cold? At the very least you should realize that you cannot pass without him. Masumi laughed out loud when Lee finished his outburst, something that only infuriated the genin further. Pass the exam. I don't give a damn about these exams. I only entered under orders. With that idiot dead, I don't have to worry about passing anymore. I can just go crazy and kill all of you little shits as slowly as I want. You make me sick. Lee cleared the distance between himself and his opponent in a single step and punched him hard in the face. Masumi's head spun around several times and stopped facing backwards. Lee stepped back in surprise. Masumi's head spun back around and his face was facing Lee again. If I recall correctly, you told Yoroi how unfortunate he was, having to fight someone his ability had no use against. Lee grit his teeth and took another step backwards. Now you are in the same position. Your taijutsu will have no effect against my body. I can dislodge my bones at will, allowing me to bend my body any way I want. Masumi charged at Lee, fist raised. Lee brought his arm up to catch his fist. To his surprise, Masumi's fist bent and his arm spiraled around Lee's arm. It then constricted, keeping Lee from putting distance between himself and his opponent. Masumi threw another punch that connected with Lee's face. Lee stumbled backwards. Where do you think you're going? Masumi tugged him back and threw another punch. Lee caught his fist this time and sent a strong kick into Masumi's gut, knocking him backwards. Lee gave a tug of his own, pulling Masumi back to him. Two can play at that game. Lee jumped in the air and delivered a spinning kick to Masumi's head. His head bounced sideways and then straightened immediately back out. Bastard, we'll see how you like it when I break your wrist. Masumi constricted his grip more but nothing happened. What the hell? You cannot break my wrist when I am stronger than you are. Lee punched Masumi in the face again, knocking his neck completely backwards. Masumi uncoiled his arm and let himself stumble away from Lee. You broke my nose. Masumi's voice came out nasally as he held his hand below his chin. Blood dribbled down into his open palm. So at the very least, your cartilage can be broken. Lee said with interest. In fact, if I recall, you never said anything about your bones being immune to damage. You just said you can just disjoint them. Masumi sneered. From under his veil. Oh, did I guess right? Lee asked as he stretched his arms. Even if you were right, it'll do you no good. You'll never be able to break them when I can simply stretch out of harm's way. Masumi said as he slowly approached Lee again. We'll see about that, Lee said as he reached into his back pouch and pulled out his nunchaku. He gave it an experimental swing before he settled into a stance with it. You think that toy will help you? Masumi laughed as he charged towards Lee again. I know for a fact that you're just acting tough. Even if you don't use chakra for ninjutsu, everyone needs chakra to survive. You opened the gate to hide your own weakness. That may be true, but I still have enough strength left to defeat you. Lee said as he met Masumi's charge. He swung his weapon and Masumi swung his arm like a whip. The two clashed into each other and bounced backwards. Masumi's leg stretched behind Lee and pulled forward in an attempt to trip him. Lee backflipped and landed expertly on his feet. He then made a series of quick jabs into his opponent's chest with his nunchaku. Masumi swung his arm, wrapping it around Lee's waist. He hoisted Lee into the air and swung him over his body. He then slammed Lee painfully into the ground. He picked him up and did it again. He repeated the process several times until he released his grip. Lee lay motionless on the ground, bleeding profusely from the massive beating he just received. That's what you get for using one of the inner gates against Yoroi. Your normal dexterity and agility was greatly weakened thanks to your ignorant usage of Su. Masumi was interrupted as he vomited up a heap of blood. Wah, Masumi bent over and coughed up more. Looks like you did not notice. Lee said as he sat up. When I made those series of jabs, I broke all of the ribs in your body. So what? Masumi's nasally voice came out breathlessly. Breathing was quickly becoming difficult for him. He put his hands against the floor and hurled more blood. So, I punctured both of your lungs multiple times with your own ribcage. Lee explained. Your lungs are slowly filling with your own blood. In just a matter of moments, you will drown in it. Lee shakily rose to his feet. He put his nunchaku back into his pouch. You bast, Masumi hulked up more blood and collapsed completely. Your arrogance in your ability cost you this fight, and your life. Lee said as he walked over to Shikamaru. He hoisted the shadow user up slowly. Are you okay, Peachy? Shikamaru said as he let Lee gently move him back over to where Ino and the campfire was. We owe you one. Nah, I know you would do the same for me. Lee laid Shikamaru down as gently as he could, but the boy still hissed in pain. Lee, once you get Choji over here, just leave us. Their third teammate could come back soon. You won't be able to beat him. These wounds are nothing, Shikamaru-kun. I was simply putting on a good show. Lee flexed his muscles and gave Shikamaru a toothy smile. No, it's not that, this guy, he isn't normal. There's no way he should still be a genin. Something is up here. Those guys didn't enter the exam to get a promotion. They're here under orders. I think they infiltrated the village. Shikamaru shifted slightly from where he lay. Those are some serious accusations, Shikamaru-kun. Lee stared at him for a long moment. But I agree with you. Lee gave a small whistle. The shadow clone Naruto had made landed down next to him an instant later. Dispel so the original knows what happened here. I'm going to take these three back to the igloo. Lee ordered. You got it. The clone saluted and then vanished in a cloud of smoke. You're dead. Zaku shouted as he continually fired bursts of wind that Hinata was easily dodging. Jukin. Hinata charged with her hands ready to emit chakra. She swung her arm just as Zaku fired a shot of wind. The two forces collided in a violent blast of energy. A minor explosion knocked both of their arms backwards. Hinata recovered first and swung hard with her other arm, catching Zaku right in the chin, sending him flying with the strength of the blow. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Sasuke inhaled deeply and then breathed out a giant ball of fire. Dosu rolled out of the way and made another attempt to get close to Sasuke. The Uchiha ran through more hand seals but wasn't fast enough as Dosu got within range and swung his arm. To his annoyance, Sasuke dissolved into mud right in front of him. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Dosu turned tiredly towards a volley of fireballs approaching him. Damn it, that hurt. Zaku rubbed his chin as he slowly stood back up. You're really going to pay, he said as he angled his hands back at Hinata again. As I thought, Hinata said, causing Zaku to lower his hands a little. You and your partner are both one-trick horses. You both rely heavily upon your weapons to do anything. Zaku clenched his teeth. Let's see you say that to me when you're laying dead on the ground. Zaku fired his cannons again. You keep making these threats. Hinata stepped to the side, easily avoiding the wind blasts. Yet you make no show of backing them up. Why you cocky bitch? Zaku fired another round of blasts. Hinata slipped easily in between them again. Jukin. Hinata yelled as she thrust both arms forward and into Zaku's stomach. The boy was lifted off of his feet and fell unconscious before he hit the ground. Dosu jumped out of the way as Sasuke's hands erupted from the snow beneath him. You won't get me with that technique like you did, Zaku. Dosu looked over just in time to watch his last standing teammate collapse from the assault Hinata just dealt him. He sighed in annoyance. There was no winning at this rate. Stop. I surrender. Dosu yelled as Sasuke began running through more seals. Dosu pulled out an earth scroll and laid it down on the snowy ground. I'll give you this in exchange for me and my teammate's life. I can also promise you that we won't attack again during the remainder of this exam. Sasuke eyed him carefully, looking for some kind of trickery. Let him go, Hinata said as she approached the two of them. His scroll is real. They can't pass anyways, so they have no further need to attack you. Sasuke looked towards Hinata and then back at Dosu. He lowered his hands and gave Dosu a small nod. Dosu bowed down to them. Thank you for your kindness. He then got up and walked over to Zaku. After hoisting him onto his shoulders, he wordlessly jumped away. You think he'll be back? Sasuke asked as he walked over and picked up the scroll. Hinata shrugged. For now, I'll let you hold onto the scroll. Lee Senpai and Naruto-kun should be back in a couple hours at most. If all goes well, they should have a scroll. Sasuke shrugged and pocketed the scroll. You have a lot of confidence in your teammates. They are both strong. It is thanks to them I can even fight like this. Hinata picked up a couple of the arrows she had fired and slipped them back into her quiver. You killed that girl without hesitation. Is that your first kill? Sasuke caught sight of the bloody arrow that had killed Kin. He was beginning to wonder what happened to the shy girl back in the academy. What happened to the clan loser Neji always talked about? No. On our first C-rank mission I was forced to take the lives of others. Hinata began cleaning the arrow that had gone through Kin's head. I've learned that if it means I can protect those important to me I cannot hesitate. Sasuke stared hard at the back of Hinata's head for a few seconds. You mean Neji? He finally said after much deliberation. Hinata stiffened slightly. She then got up and turned towards him. Neji ni-san may resent me for the past, but I cannot bring myself to hate him. We are family. She slipped the last arrow into her quiver. Sasuke stared at her hard for a few minutes. Her reason didn't settle well with him. After all, he wanted nothing more than to kill his own brother. Instead of saying anything about it, he decided to focus on the topic at hand. Anyways, we owe you one. If there is a way we can repay you later, just let us know. Hinata stared at him for a few seconds. It's appreciated, but I didn't do it expecting anything in return. Before Sasuke could say anything more, she turned and cupped her hands over her mouth. Clone-kun, you can come out now. As she said that, Naruto came flying from the trees and landed down in front of Hinata, her bow in his hands. Oh, Clone-kun, you found my bow. Hinata took it from him and gave the clone a quick kiss on the cheek. Thank you. Now let the original know what happened. The clone nodded and poofed out of existence, a visible blush still on his face before he did. Naruto landed at that base of where the trees had been cut down by himself. Kiba and Akamaru were tucked under one of each of his arms. Phew, that was close. Naruto said as he dropped the two to the ground. Close is what you call it. It's a darn miracle we escaped at all. Kiba looked up at Naruto and all the annoyance drained from his face. Naruto, why are you covered in red chakra? That's not important. Kiba, before that thing figures out that we aren't underneath its paw, you gotta get out of here. Naruto watched as the giant tanuki continually slammed its fist into the spot where they once were. What? I thought we told you already. Kiba. Naruto interrupted him. He then turned to face him and Kiba felt his knees weaken at Naruto's glare. You're in the way. I can't fight and protect you at the same time. Normally Kiba would have a comeback to that, but his mind had temporarily frozen at the moment. The only thing he could do was nod in agreement. Akamaru slowly stood up and put his hand on his master's shoulder. Kiba seemed to snap awake at that moment. Naruto, you better not die. Kiba said before he and his dog took off away from the battlefield. Idiot, I can't die yet. I haven't become the Hokage. Naruto tightened his grip as his chakra knives. At that moment, Gaara finally realized that Naruto wasn't being crushed to death by his fist. He quickly began to scan the area, but it didn't take long to notice Naruto's glowing, red form. There you are, Uzumaki Naruto. So it would appear you can tap into your demon's chakra like I can the Shukaku's. Is that what that thing is called? Naruto said, although he doubted Gaara could hear him. What an ugly name. Although, I guess it fits. Tell me how ugly it is when the life is being squeezed out of you. Gaara roared. He spread his arms out wide and an armada of sand shuriken began spewing from the demon's stomach. Damn, that thing would have good ears. Naruto jumped backwards into the trees in an attempt to take cover. Unfortunately for him, the trees stood no chance as they were assaulted by the storm of shuriken. The trees were shredded like paper and soon Naruto found himself having to dodge a countless number of them anyways. There were too many for him to keep up with though and soon Naruto was pelted by half a dozen of them, sending him crashing into the ground. How do you like that? Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara's laughter echoed across the forest. Naruto slowly stood himself back up, his wounds already beginning to seal back up. The snow around him was melting from his demon's aura. Why don't you tell me how you like this? My own version of my first water jutsu. Naruto threw his knives into the air and began running through a set of seals. Sushin. Daisuiban no Jutsu. The water all around Naruto rose up and began to form a massive stream. Naruto used the water to pick up a downed tree. He then flung the tree right at Shukaku's body. The giant demon was easily able to catch the tree without much difficulty at all. However, it left it open for the whip to smash with great force into the unprotected monster, knocking it over and down into the ground. Naruto dropped the whip immediately after using it. Water rolled everywhere in a massive wave, parts of it washing over him. The red chakra around him disappeared and he fell to the ground panting. His chakra blades hit the ground around him. That's not enough. I have to keep going. Naruto closed his eyes and focused hard. More of the red chakra instantly began wrapping around his body. Naruto felt all his fatigue disappearing. This is going to get dangerous if I keep doing this. Naruto said aloud, Yamato-sensei's warning of suffering from something called severe chakra burn if he used the aura more than twice in a day ringing in his head. I'm going to have to take it out with this next strike, at the very least I have to immobilize him. If I could just figure out where Gaara was in that massive thing. Naruto surveyed the massive creature as it clumsily got back to its feet. It was clear that Gaara was not used to controlling the massive body. He probably rarely, if ever, entered this state. Still, the fact that he could was quite humbling to Naruto. If he ever took too much chakra from the Kyuubi, he could end up like him too. Naruto picked up his knives and started moving carefully behind the tree line. The closer he could get before being spotted, the better chance he had at pulling this off. Unfortunately for him, it appeared as if Gaara could sense him now. He must have been picking up on his demonic aura. You can't escape from me. The demon raised its giant arm, and to Naruto's horror, sand began rising from all around him. Naruto dove out from behind the trees and into the open clearing so he could see the sand better. He landed nimbly on a down tree and began sprinting towards the towering demon. That's when Naruto noticed it. The demon was breathing incredibly heavily. In fact, it looked like it was in intense pain. Could Gaara still be bleeding inside that thing? Hey, Gaara, you need to stop fighting now. The more you move about, the more you're going to bleed. You'll die if you keep fighting. Naruto stopped running as sand whipped up from all around him. He spun in a circle, his blades activated. The sand broke apart around him and Naruto charged straight through. Gaara, I know you can hear me. Stop this. Do you want to die? Shut up. Don't act like you are actually concerned about me. Gaara yelled as he turned around and swung his massive tail towards Naruto. Naruto dropped low and hugged the surface of the tree he was on. Shukaku's tail flew over him by mere inches. He slowly stood back up. But I am concerned about you. I don't want you to die. I finally found someone exactly like me. I already told you. We are nothing alike. Gaara rose his massive arm and swung down at Naruto again. This time the boy was forced to jump out of the way as the hand tore the tree he had been on to splinters. The demon's breath was getting heavier and more ragged. I have no choice then. To stop you from moving, I'm gonna have to knock your ass down. Naruto pumped all the chakra he could into one of his blades and swung hard at Shukaku's leg. It slammed into the leg and halted after barely getting a quarter of the way through. No way. It didn't. Cut. You're annoying. Gaara swung his cut leg outwards in a kick. Naruto had no way of dodging this time and he was flung well across the clearing of fallen trees right into a still-standing one. Naruto let out a small groan as he slid down into the soft snow beneath him. I'm so glad this aura is on right now. I really think that would have killed me if I had been normal. Naruto stumbled back to his feet in time to see another barrage of shuriken flying at him. If that's how you want to play it, Gaara. I'll just have to defeat you, so I can save you. Naruto gave a bestial roar and charged straight into the storm of sand. He jumped, ducked, rolled, and weaved his way through all the sand with great speed, every step bringing him closer to his goal. Alright, 2 blades this time. Naruto stuck both blades on one hand and focused what was left of the red chakra into them. Take this, Gaara. Naruto swung again, this time the blades slashed straight through what was left of the leg like it was butter. Gaara could do nothing to maintain his balance and began to fall forward. Not good. Naruto had to backpedal fast before he got flattened by the falling tanuki. He just barely got clear when the thing hit the ground, the massive shockwave from the force sending him flying. Damn you, Uzumaki Naruto, Gaara rumbled, his breath coming in short gasps at this point. I'll kill you yet. The beast itself was no longer speaking as Gaara slowly emerged from its forehead. He was bleeding profusely from his massive cut. Gaara, you must understand by now. We have to stop. You don't have the blood left to go on, and I'm pretty much taxed on chakra too. Naruto said as he stumbled back towards the now visible redhead. This can't be, how can I lose, to someone like you, when I'm so close, to perfection? Gaara's head slowly drooped over and he shut his eyes. Gaara. Hey, that's not funny. Gaara. You're alright, aren't you? Gaara. Each time Naruto said his name, his voice got a little louder. Suddenly the Shukaku started breathing again, but that didn't make sense, Gaara was still visible. Then Naruto noticed something troubling. Before, the demon's eyes had been a faded and dull yellow. Now they seemed vibrant. They seemed alive. Woohoo. Finally. A voice that wasn't Gaara's roared as the beast slowly started to rise itself up. It's been forever since the kid has fallen asleep in this form. Hot dog. The wind feels fantastic. Is that the real Shukaku? Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. If the beast was alive though, that meant Gaara had to be too. So that meant he still had time. Shukaku started to stand up but immediately fell over. Aw damn. That kid got reckless and lost me a leg. The tanuki stuck its tail underneath itself and then stood back up to his full height. Yeah, this'll work just fine. Shukaku gave a great big laugh. Naruto swung his chakra blade with all his might. Only the very tip of the blade cut into the demon's other leg though, and lacked any force to slice the sand at all. Naruto stumbled down to one knee, panting heavily. Damn it. I guess I really am out of chakra. I may have no choice but to pull on the fox's power again. Yo, who the heck's poking me down there? Shukaku peered down and caught sight of Naruto instantly. Oh, just a wee lil feller. I know, how about we play a game? The beast said while it clapped at the idea. Naruto ignored the beast and focused hard on pulling out more chakra. Here's how the game goes. I try to kill you, and you just stand there and die. You got it. Shukaku didn't wait for a response. Okay then here we go. The tanuki inflated his stomach and then slammed down on it with one of its fist. Futon. Rinkuden. The beast spit a giant air bullet straight at Naruto who disappeared just before it hit. Sorry, but I don't want to play your game. This time the fox's aura will only last a few seconds, enough for one slash. Naruto swung his blade at the demon's neck this time. Don't be such a meanie. The Shukaku used its tail to launch itself straight into the air. Naruto's blade missed completely. No way. Naruto's eyes followed the beast as it rocketed into the air. It can jump. It was much more coordinated than Gaara had been when he was in control. Futon. Rinkuden. Naruto realized too late that he let his surprise cost him. The air bullet slammed with full force into his body, rocketing him downwards towards the still mushy ground. Pieces of mud were flung everywhere as Naruto's body formed a massive crater in the ground. Just as he finally stopped moving, the fox's aura disappeared. Hey, looks like the damn thing saved my life again. Although this time, I think every bone in my body is broken. Naruto couldn't bring himself to move at all. Not even to wipe away the blood that was leaking into one of his eyes. Aw man, you ain't dead yet. Shukaku landed on the ground outside of the crater, causing a miniature earthquake as he did. Well, I'll just have to fix it. Shukaku was cut off as an explosion hit it in the face. What? Who? Naruto tried to turn his head, but couldn't. Naruto, are you okay? A strand of pink hair came into his view. Sakura. Naruto asked in surprise. What are you doing? Get out of here. Not without you. When Kiba showed up without you, I immediately came back. There's no way I could live with myself if we let an idiot like you die for us. Sakura bent down to pick him up. Where the hell do you think you're going with my toy? Sakura whipped around in surprise. Shukaku was completely unharmed. Sakura, you have to run. Naruto yelled. You're no match for it. Sakura turned back to Naruto and smiled sadly at him. No way, she said adamantly. She then turned back to the Shukaku and spread her arms out. You'll have to blast through me too if you want to kill him. Sakura. No. Don't do this. Naruto propped his elbows and attempted to lift himself back up but fell down immediately. The Shukaku laughed happily. Yes. Now I get to kill two of them. He inflated his stomach back up. Futon. Sakura, run. I won't. Both genin closed their eyes and waited for the wind blast to kill them. They waited a few moments but nothing happened. They both opened their eyes back up and slowly looked up at the Shukaku. To their surprise, he was crumbling. No. The beast roared. How is this possible? I can't be dying. I just finally got free. It's not fair. The Shukaku kept shouting unintelligibly as its mouth fell apart. Soon the giant beast was no more. Complete silence rang across the forest. Not a single creature dared to make a noise. Finally, Sakura slipped down to her knees. She was shaking hard. Did it say it was dying? Sakura. The pink-haired girl quickly turned back to the broken blonde. You have to get me up to Gaara. Sakura gave him a questioning look. Please. Any doubts in Sakura's mind fled as she saw the seriousness on Naruto's face. Alright. Sakura gently helped Naruto up. his arm wrapped around both of her shoulders. They slowly but surely, one foot in front of the other, began their ascent from the crater and up towards Gaara. When he finally came into sight, Naruto didn't like what he saw. Gaara lay there, motionless, in a pool of his own blood. To their surprise, Kankuro was already there, standing just a few feet away, his eyes wide. They both ignored him and Sakura stopped moving just outside of the blood. Naruto broke off from her there and stumbled up to the redhead. He kneeled right down, his clothes instantly covered in his opponent's blood. Gaara, Naruto knew he shouldn't be crying. He'd only know the guy for a little while, and all the time they'd been trying to kill each, yet Naruto felt like he'd known him all his life. And so, tears slid down, falling onto the redhead's face. How strange. Gaara slowly opened his eyes, surprising everyone there. Gaara. Naruto was the only one of them to say anything. You're alive. Not for much longer, the beast inside me has already perished. I will soon follow it. Gaara looked skywards, his eyes glazed over. No, Gaara, you can't die. You're not supposed to die. Naruto said as more tears fell down and hit Gaara's face. It's funny. I didn't think anyone would cry for me when I died. Naruto's eyes widened. He had said the exact same thing to Lee when he thought he was dying. Thank you, Uzumaki Naruto. Gaara's breath became almost non-existent. I believe that if I would have just given you the chance, we would have made great friends. Gaara closed his eyes and all breath left his body. Gaara, open your eyes. Gaara. Naruto violently shook the redhead that laid on the ground in front of him. You can't die. Not like this. If you die like this, that means that I killed you. Gaara didn't respond. Naruto slowly began to realize that he would never be able to respond. He was dead. Naruto. Sakura took a slight step closer when the other person there started chuckling. She looked up in surprise at Kankuro. Naruto did the same. I can't believe it. Kankuro said quietly. I can't believe someone actually managed to kill Gaara. Kankuro burst out into complete laughter. You're amazing. You Konoha genin are truly something. Kankuro had to hold his side to catch his breath. Finally, that bastard is dead. He wheezed out. You asshole. Naruto stumbled forward and slugged the older genin right in the face. Kankuro stumbled backwards and Naruto lost his own balance, still greatly wounded from his previous fight. What the hell? Kankuro asked. I don't want to fight you. He nurtured his wounded cheek. Well, I wanna fight you. Naruto roared from the ground. He was your teammate, damn it. He was part of your village. Don't you dare laugh at him cause of this. He was no teammate or brother of mine. Kankuro shouted back. Brother. Naruto whispered in shock. That's right, even if we shared parents, I will never recognize that creep as a blood relative. He deserved what he got. Naruto was prepared to shout at him again, but Sakura instantly cleared the distance and slapped Kankuro for him. What the hell is with you people? Kankuro now held his other cheek. No. Sakura shouted. What the hell is wrong with you? You are the worst kind of scum in the world. How could you say those terrible things about your own brother? Naruto looked at Sakura in shock. If you knew about his history, you would know why. Kankuro brought up his arm to hit Sakura back. I do know, Naruto said, causing him to stop. I know exactly the kind of past he had. Being hated by everyone in his village. Receiving looks of disgust for something he had no control over. Having all the other kids' parents tell them to stay away from him. Sakura stared sadly at the blonde boy. You have won too. Kankuro finally started to fit the puzzles together. That's right. Naruto glared up at him. I have the Kyuubi no Yoko sealed inside of me and everyone in the village hated me for it. Sakura let out a small gasp and Kankuro's eyes widened. I always used to wonder what it would be like to have a family. Naruto continued on. To have an older brother who would look out for me and protect me from everyone. A mom and dad who would actually love me. Sakura felt tears start to form around her own eyes. Meanwhile, Kankuro's face became more and more impassive as Naruto spoke. But now I'm starting to wonder, would they have treated me like you guys treated him? Naruto slowly got back to his feet. Would they have laughed if they knew I was dead? Naruto asked his unanswerable questions. Like hell I'd know. Kankuro spat. Look, I don't care anymore. He's dead and there is nothing you can do. But you can take the earth scroll that he has. Kankuro gestured to Gaara's body. We have no need for it anymore. I'm going to go find my sister. Kankuro turned away from the two genin and his dead brother and began to stroll off. Where the hell do you think you're going? Naruto took a step after him but stumbled. Sakura caught him before he could hit the ground. Get back here so I can kick your ass. Naruto, just let him go. You can't fight him in this state. Sakura whispered gently. Why do people have to be that way? Naruto said so only Sakura could hear. Kankuro was getting farther and farther away. Sakura said nothing and slowly led Naruto back towards Gaara. You should be thankful. Both turned to see Kankuro standing still and looking at him. Without Gaara, you ruined the plans of our village. Otogakure won't dare make a move now either. Having said that, he turned back around and left. What do you think he meant by that? Sakura asked curiously. Naruto shook his head. He didn't know either. Sakura set him down gently and then began shifting through Gaara's belongings, looking for the scroll. Naruto sat there in silence as she did. Finally, Sakura cleared her throat. Naruto made no reaction, so she decided to talk anyways. Did you mean it? Sakura paused before gathering the courage to press on. Do you really have the Kyuubi sealed inside you? Naruto nodded slowly. His eyes never left Gaara's lifeless face. Sakura didn't say anything again until she had the scroll. She pocketed it in her pouch and walked over to stand in front of Naruto. I'm sorry. Sakura said. About what? Naruto asked bitterly. About a lot of things right now. But mostly, for the way I treated you in the past. I didn't know. Sakura paused. There was no point in finishing that sentence. You're not the only one. Naruto replied. Then he sighed. Not like it matters, it's in the past. Besides, it's hard to know when they'll kill you if you tell anyone. He slowly struggled to stand back up. Let me help you. I know where my teammates are heading. Sakura stepped forward to give Naruto a hand. You can stay with us until you're strong enough to move. Naruto shook his head. I'm not going anywhere just yet. Not until I dig Gaara a proper grave and pay him my respects. Naruto pulled out a kunai and stumbled up to a part of the ground that wasn't destroyed or covered by trees. The ground has mostly hardened back up now, but it should be soft enough for me to dig through. Naruto started stabbing his kunai into the ground and began picking clumps of dirt out of it. Sakura watched him sadly before she walked over next to him and stuck her hands into the still soft dirt. She pulled out a big amount and threw it to the side. She continued this multiple times until she noticed Naruto had stopped. When she looked up, he was staring at her, confusion evident on his face. Aren't you worried about your hands getting dirty? Or breaking a nail? Naruto finally asked. Sakura smiled slightly before setting back to work. Idiot, I'm a kunoichi now, not some pampered princess. She heard Naruto give the smallest laugh before he threw his kunai aside and began digging again. Sakura had long since lost track of time before they finally got done digging. She knew they must have at least spent a couple hours at it though. The ground had been much harder the lower they had gone. Working had soon become strenuous labor. Very little conversation had passed between them the whole time as well. Nevertheless, they had finished and were now throwing the dirt back upon Gaara, whom Naruto had laid into the pit already. That should do it, Sakura said as she patted the mound of dirt down a little. I have to say though, it's a miracle nobody attacked us while we've been here. Anyone who was close enough to see the Shukaku probably turned tail and ran. I doubt anyone will be coming by this part of the forest the rest of the exam. Naruto said as he ripped off a decently sized piece of bark. He stuck it in the front of the mound. Sorry Gaara, I know it isn't much, but this is going to have to do for you. Naruto said as he scribbled the boy's name on it. He then kneeled down in front of it and clapped his hands together. Sakura mimicked his action and they both silently prayed for the boy. After a few moments of silence, they both opened their eyes. Let's get going, Naruto said as he slowly stood back up. When he went to walk he stumbled forward again. Idiot, Sakura said as she caught him. There's no way you are going to be healed enough to move on your own. Let me help you. Naruto nodded silently as Sakura began to help him walk away. There you guys are. Both Sakura and Naruto looked up to the trees to see Kiba and Shino standing there. Akamaru rested happily on Kiba's head. We thought you were both goners. Kiba shouted, relief evident in his voice. They both jumped down to the forest floor, next to Naruto and Sakura. Shino made it with Kiba's assistance. Shino, Naruto spoke first. Is there, Naruto fumbled for the right words. Are you alright? He finally asked. He couldn't take his eyes off of the spot where Shino's arm was supposed to be. If you are asking if I feel any pain, then I am alright. Shino answered in monotone. My Kikaichu secreted a special formula to stop the bleeding and numb the pain the second my arm was taken. I will be capable of surviving in this forest for the remainder of the exam, but my ability to contribute to getting the scroll will be nil while I am on the drug. Naruto took a couple seconds to process what Shino had said. But, can you still be a shinobi? His eyes still hadn't left the spot. Shino adjusted his glasses slightly. As an Aburame, I have always relied on my Kikaichu rather than normal shinobi methods. While I will be slightly stinted, my clan's jutsu do not require any hand seals. Therefore I will not be forced to halt my career. Naruto nodded slowly as his brain ran through Shino's words to hear. Finally, he smiled. I'm glad that you don't have to quit Shino. You may be a weird guy, but no one should have their goals taken from them. Shino pushed his glasses up again. Moving on. What are you guys still doing here? That guy isn't still alive, is he? Kiba tried to move the topic to safer ground but quickly realized his mistake as Naruto's face fell. Oh, I see. Kiba recalled Naruto's words during the fight. If he looked like this, that meant only one outcome was possible. I notice you built a grave with his name on it. Shino observed, making Sakura and Naruto cringe. Do not be alarmed. I am not upset. I am just making observations to determine the outcome of the battle. I also noticed that his sister is not where I hid her. So I can assume that the other brother found her and carried her off. Yeah, but he let Naruto have the scroll before he went off. Sakura pulled the scroll out of her pouch. Shino nodded again. Is that the scroll you need, Naruto-san? I suppose, yeah. Naruto looked at the scroll and then all of the people present. Then what are you waiting for? Go ahead and take it. Kiba gestured to it. Are you guys sure? Naruto asked as he skeptically reached for it. It is only logical. You are the one who defeated Gaara and you are the one in need of the scroll. Shino said as Naruto grabbed onto it and slipped it into his own pouch. So what are we going to do from here? Kiba asked while looking at his teammates. I doubt there is much we could do to pass anymore. We're down to no scrolls and Shino isn't in a state to be fighting. Our best move would be to head to the edge of the forest by the fence. Most teams will be heading inwards to get closer to the tower, not the other way. Shino said matter-of-factly. That's not a bad idea, but we need to make a detour. Everyone turned to Naruto. Trust me, you guys are going to want to come with me. Chapter 18. The Forest of Death Part 4. Hinata paced back and forth in anxiety as she waited for her teammates. They were late. The sun was beginning to set and they were nowhere to be found and she was starting to get nervous. What if they had been hurt? They'll be fine, you know. Sasuke shouted towards her, attempting to calm her nerves. It apparently didn't work as she showed no signs of slowing her pacing down. Sasuke was going to say more but a sudden groan from inside the igloo caught his attention. He ran up to it just as Tenten was emerging from it. She was holding her ribs tenderly as she stood completely straight. Sasuke, she asked in surprise. And is that Hinata I see over there? Just what is going on? When Neji wakes up I will explain. I don't like having to say things twice. Sasuke responded, getting a sharp glare from his older teammate. I'm awake. Neji's voice said from inside the igloo. Although I'm too hurt to move on my own. Just go ahead and explain. Sasuke quickly jumped into an explanation of everything that happened from the moment Haku showed up to their present situation. Tenten and Neji listened silently for the whole explanation. So my ribs are broken and Neji's in no condition to fight either. Tenten summed up. We're now in debt to Hinata and her team and you're the only one we can rely on. We don't even have any scrolls. It sounds to me like Hinata-sama is letting us keep that earth scroll. Neji corrected Tenten. We can't keep it. She won it. Tenten slapped the top of the igloo as she berated Neji who was still inside it. Let's wait and see what Naruto and Lee come back with. They may have a scroll or two themselves. Sasuke said, attempting to defuse the situation. Speaking of which, Lee just entered into my eyes range. Neji said and a moment later Hinata began running to the side of the clearing, having seen him herself. He's with 3 others from your graduating class. He added. Don't tell me they saved another team. Sasuke grumbled as he ran over towards Hinata. Just as he arrived next to her, Lee and Choji appeared in the clearing. Lee was carrying Shikamaru and Choji was carrying an unconscious Ino. Hinata. Lee half shouted, half panted. They were attacked by a group working for that Orochimaru guy. Sasuke furrowed his brows and Hinata looked even more worried. Just how many teams does he have entered in this tournament? Hinata asked as she placed her hand on her chin. We were attacked by a team working for him too. It's not really working for him if he's dead. Shikamaru pointed out the inconsistency. Trying to avenge him then. Sasuke said flatly as he glared at the pineapple head. I actually do not think they knew, at least it did not seem like they did. Lee said skeptically. Hinata nodded in agreement. The ones that attacked us didn't know yet either. They clearly thought they were under orders though, so someone else is controlling them for sure. Lee looked around and noticed someone was missing. By the way, where is Naruto? Hinata shook her head. I was really hoping you had heard something. The worry in her voice was strongly evident. No worries, we got him. A new voice shouted as teammate emerged from the brush. This time Kiba was gingerly helping Shino along while Sakura was letting Naruto lean on her. Shino-san, your arm. Choji gasped loudly as he looked at the spot where Shino's arm should have been. What the hell happened? Sasuke asked as he gazed at Naruto who was drenched in blood. I fought Gaara. Naruto mumbled, his eyes locked on the ground. Sakura gave him a sideways look, clearly feeling sad for him. You what? Hinata and Lee asked at once. They couldn't believe he had been so reckless. How did that happen? How did you get away? Lee continued after he and Hinata shared a look. It's my fault. Sakura interjected. I got my team caught by his and Naruto showed up to save us. It's just a team of freaking heroes. Sasuke threw his arms in the air in disbelief. Just how many people were these guys going to save? At this rate they were going to help half the participating teams pass. You still didn't answer what happened. Hinata pressed quietly. I killed him. Naruto spat out. Lee and Hinata's eyes widened in surprise. There's more. Shino spoke up now as he looked from Naruto to his teammates. We believe Sunagakure is somehow in with Otogakure. They may even be planning an invasion against Konohagakure. Sasuke, Hinata, and Lee all met each other's gaze. Are you thinking the same thing? Sasuke asked. They both nodded but Hinata answered. That means Suna was also working with Orochimaru. It sounds like we have a lot to discuss, maybe we should build a fire. Shikamaru suggested. The sun had set and he was starting to freeze. 15 minutes later and all 12 of the genin were now conscious and gathered around a big fire. They had no fear of being attacked, since there was 12 of them. So, where do we go from here? Choji nervously broke the silence that had settled over the group of gathered genin. First, we need to deduce how many scrolls we have between the 4 teams. Shino responded in a flat tone of voice. Well, ours was crushed by the Gaara kid but Naruto retrieved an earth scroll from him. Kiba was prodding the fire with a small branch he had found while he talked. Kabuto took ours and still has the one that belonged to his team. Shikamaru was staring straight upwards, probably imagining that he could see the clouds. Does any of this even matter? The now conscious Ino asked in annoyance. The exam has been invaded by a group of evil genin or stronger that are working for a now dead Sannin. It does matter. Sasuke said vehemently. I want to pass this exam no matter what. He's right. Neji nodded in agreement. It had been a pain for him to get out of the igloo into the fire at all and he found the conversation incredibly irritating at the moment. It was just our fate that things ended up this way. However, the fact doesn't change that we came in here knowing we were going to be surrounded by enemies. Neji is right. Lee's shout was in stark contrast to everyone else's hushed voices. We came here to fight anyone that got in our way. No matter who the enemy or how strong. I don't want to hear that from the guy on the team that's just saved 3 teams. Tenten said while chuckling. It was really just like Lee to do something like that. Back to the topic of scrolls. Hinata steered the conversation back on course. Sasuke-san and I retrieved an earth scroll from the Otogakure team after both our teams lost our original scrolls in the fight against Orochimaru. So we have 2 earth scrolls between 4 teams. Naruto mumbled as he produced the one he had and set it in the wet grass in front of himself. Sasuke, who was right next to him, placed a scroll next to it. I think we should withdraw ourselves. Sakura raised her hand slightly into the air. We can't fight with Shino in his condition and Naruto deserves one of those scrolls. Shino and Kiba both nodded solemnly while Akamaru made a small whimper. We should withdraw too. Shikamaru turned his gaze away from the tree line. Ino can't even walk and my injuries are too much for me. He looked at his team expectantly and they only too gladly nodded, having been thinking the same thing but glad Shikamaru had been the one to say it. Shall we proceed to the edge of the forest tomorrow at first light? Shino asked, his gaze directed at Shikamaru and his team. Yeah, it'd be a great help if you'd let us stick with you guys since we're both retiring. After all, we aren't even allowed to leave until the 5 days is up. Shikamaru nodded to Shino. Well, that's that. Kiba smiled sadly as he patted Akamaru. I guess that makes this one ours. Naruto grimaced as he reached forward and picked his scroll back up. Hinata rightfully got this, but if you don't mind, we'll take it. Sasuke also picked up the other one. Hinata nodded to him. Our two teams should travel together as well until we can retrieve 2 heaven scrolls. And just why would we agree to that, Hinata-sama? Neji spat coldly. Neji. Tenten whispered harshly. Now isn't the time. Sasuke is the only one we can rely on. We need them. It would be most excellent to have Sasuke-san aid us as well, seeing as Naruto can no longer fight due to his chakra burns. Lee hurriedly chimed in. So what are we going to do tomorrow? Naruto asked, suddenly sounding bitter. You're going to ditch me with Tenten and Neji while you guys and Sasuke go retrieve scrolls. It's the best way, Naruto-kun. Hinata whispered quietly to him. Lee-senpai nor I want to see you hurt any more than you are. She gently touched one of the whiskers on his cheek as she said this. Naruto looked between Hinata and Lee for a couple moments before finally nodding. I guess, I'm trusting my team to you, Sasuke. Don't mess it up. Sasuke opened his mouth to retort, but Lee beat him to it. So you three agree as well, of course. Tenten began nodding while Neji spoke. I leave the decision in the hands of the only one in our group that can still fight. He gave Sasuke a hard look. Sasuke interlaced his fingers in front of himself. It's the only way. I can't back down here. He looked to Hinata and Lee. I look forward to fighting with you Lee-san, Hinata. Hinata and Lee both smiled and said something similar in return. So with that decided, we have to figure out how to let the Jonin know as soon as possible. Shikamaru spoke up again. We won't see any for another 3 days at most and there is no guarantee you'll see them any sooner. Haku's watching. He'll report it. Naruto said flatly. It was a statement that confused everyone aside from his teammates and Sasuke. Haku-san is the proctor of this exam. Hinata quickly began to fill them in. With his Kekkei Genkai he is able to monitor everything that is happening at once. And he didn't help us when a freaking Biju attacked. Kiba half yelled into the forest, hoping Haku could hear him. Gaara was a genin just like us. Naruto turned harshly on Kiba. He was likely just being used as a weapon for whatever the hell it is they're planning. That's all they thought he was good for. Naruto-kun. Hinata whispered sadly. She looked over to him before meeting Sakura's gaze. She too was looking at him in sympathy. It was then that Hinata realized she must also now know his secret. Sorry, I didn't mean any offense. Kiba, for his part, quickly retracted his statement. Silence rang over the group after that for almost a full minute. If that's all set, can we go to bed now? Ino yawned tiredly as she said this. Everyone else nodded solemnly and after decided the order for watches they all turned in for the night. Kabuto sat inside the crater that had been created in Orochimaru's fight. Dosu and Zaku were staring at the corpse of their former leader with looks of horror on their faces. His body had been left in the forest to rot by the Anbu themselves. What are we going to do about this? Zaku suddenly asked as he shouted at Kabuto. We can't possibly let this go unpunished. We won't, don't worry. Kabuto sighed while adjusting his glasses. I've got just the team in mind to take revenge for this. Who? Dosu lifted his masked face up and attempted to make eye contact with their new leader. Orochimaru didn't enter into the tournament without a team. Those twins that share a body should be here soon. Dosu's eyes lit up in realization. Of course, Tuyuya-chan's team passed and got into this round under the guise of Konohagakure shinobi as well. The 5 of them will be perfect. Just as Kabuto finished speaking, 4 forms broke free from the trees and landed in front of Kabuto with one knee on the ground. "Who was it?" asked the biggest member, Jirobo, in a voice that did nothing to hide his anger. "Who's the shithead that killed Orochimaru-sama?" The red-headed, Tayuya, screamed. "We'll kill him nice and slow." The 6-armed Kitamura seethed out. "They'll wish they were never born." Sakin and Uken's voices rang out together, one from the head on front and the other the head in back. Kabuto chuckled evilly as he pulled out his shinobi cards and began playing with them. After a while he threw one card down. Might Guy's figure and stats were featured on it. "This is the man that killed him. We'll set out right Awa." "Not yet." Kabuto interrupted Sakin as he threw down 3 more cards. Rock Lee, Hyuga Hinata, and Uzumaki Naruto. He said the names of the 3 people who appeared on the cards next. Dosu's eyes widened as he realized the implications. "So what? You saying these shit-for-brained genin had a hand in Orochimaru-sama's death?" Tayuya and the rest of the Sound 4 didn't yet get the connection. "Yes, and then some." Kabuto ran his hand through his hair as he looked them all in the eyes. "They were the ones that summoned their sensei who proceeded to kill Orochimaru-sama. They're still here in the forest as we talk. I shouldn't have to spell it out any further, should I?" "No, we've got it." A sadistic grin appeared across all of their faces as they plotted their revenge. Day 3. Sasuke, Hinata, and Lee jumped from branch to branch at top speed as they hurriedly attempted to locate an enemy of any kind. "You see anyone yet, Hinata?" Sasuke yelled to the Hyuga heiress impatiently. He wanted to hurry and find a scroll fast. Hinata shook her head. "Not yet." She too was in a rush. Naruto and Neji barely tolerated each other for just a couple moments. Now the 2 of them were alone with Tenten inside of a hollowed tree. Things weren't likely to end well if they took too long. "Keep going, you can find them, Hinata." Lee was the only one oblivious to worry. Hinata stopped short suddenly and it didn't even take Sasuke or Lee a second later to mimic her. "You got something?" Sasuke asked excitedly. "Yes, 3 of them, but it isn't right." Hinata was incredibly tense. "What do you mean?" Lee perked one of his bushy brows in curiosity. 3 as a team, right? They just appeared in my range as if they were summoned. And they aren't human." Hinata shouted in realization as 3 giant humanoid monsters descended from above towards the 3 young genin. They all jumped out of the way and just barely dodged the attacks by the 3 giant summons. "What the hell are those?" Sasuke's Sharingan was already activated. One of them had no arms and was covered in bandages, another was bald and ripped with muscles and the final with long flowing hair, held a giant club. "Enemies," Lee answered plainly as he settled into his stance. "There's more. An arrow is coming straight at us and another enemy entered my vision from below." Hinata yelled hurriedly. Lee turned just in time to see the arrow coming at him at an astounding speed. He dove off the branch he was on and began plummeting towards the forest floor. "I shall get the enemy below," he shouted back up towards them. "My Sharingan has got a lock on the guy who fired that arrow. He's mine." Sasuke grinned wickedly as he jumped off in the direction that the arrow had come from. Wait," Hinata shouted in exasperation. They had left her with the most troublesome seeming opponent. Unfortunately, she didn't have any time for self-pity as the 3 giant Doki attacked her. Meanwhile, Lee landed nimbly on the forest floor and turned to where he believed the opponent to be coming from, settling into his stance as he did. He waited patiently as the ground began to shake violently as his opponent charged out of the brush. Lee's eyes widened in surprise as he caught sight of the size of the opponent he was fighting. "You're dead, trash." Jirobo roared in fury at Guy's mini look-alike. He would take revenge for his lord right here and now. He thought this evilly as he raised his fist into the air and swung with all his strength. First gate. Open. Lee held his hand up and to Jirobo's surprise caught his fist and stopped his momentum clear in its tracks. "What?" Lee grit his teeth as his feet slowly slid backwards into the grass. His face was slowly turning redder as the effect of the gate fully kicked in. "Think you're clever, huh?" Black energy began pouring off Jirobo as his whole body began covered in dark marks. "Well, take this." He pushed Lee's hand out of the way and swung with his other hand. "Darn," Lee shouted as he brought his forearm in front of himself. It did little to shield him however, as Jirobo's fist smashed into him and launched him backwards and straight to the closest tree. He hit it so hard he sent hunks of bark flying in every direction. "I ain't done yet." Despite his massive size, Jirobo closed the distance quickly and swung a powerful kick that caught Lee in the gut and once again sent him flying until he finally collided with the snowy ground. Lee slowly slid to a stop right in front of another big tree and began writing on the ground. As he did, he heard Jirobo's thundering steps as he charged towards him again. No choice then. Lee struggled to his knees and turned in the direction of Jirobo. Second gate. Open. He kicked off from the ground and met Jirobo's charge in midair. Jirobo wasn't able to stop in time and Lee's knee smashed right into his chest and knocked him slightly backwards. Lee landed on the ground and spun around, now swinging his leg high in the air. His foot connected with Jirobo's neck but stopped there. "You think that hurts, punk?" Jirobo's face was completely enraged as he knocked Lee's foot aside. Lee stumbled back and leaned up against the tree in fright. "Eat this." Jirobo swung his fist and Lee vanished from sight. Jirobo hit the tree with such force that it splintered the whole base apart. The tree began falling towards him but he paid it no mind. "Where is he?" He looked left, right and backwards but didn't see him. "Down here," Lee shouted just as Jirobo looked down. Lee's foot crashed into Jirobo's chin and knocked him a couple feet off the ground. "Not yet." Lee, still upside down, went into the air after him. His foot collided with Jirobo's chin again and again, rocketing him higher and higher into the air with each kick. Meanwhile, the tree was slowly descending towards them at the same time. Third gate. Open. Lee gave one final kick that sent Jirobo right into the falling tree as he propelled himself to safety. He landed on the ground just as the tree crashed down, crushing Jirobo with it. Phew, too close. Lee let out a sigh of relief as he defeated his opponent. "Wait," he suddenly shouted in horror as he realized he had forgotten something important. What if he had the scroll? "I have to get him out." Lee began running towards the tree but stopped short as it began violently shaking. A blast of dark chakra erupted from underneath the tree as it slowly began to lift higher and higher into the air. Only a couple seconds later and Lee could see a transformed Jirobo was the one lifting the tree. "You trash." Jirobo took a step forward and hurled the tree with all his might. "Not good." Lee jumped high and over the tree as it sailed underneath him. Just as he began to descend, Jirobo appeared in front of him. "I'll rip you apart." Jirobo swung his fist and Lee performed a mid-air front flip in order to dodge. As he was coming back around he brought the heel of his foot down on Jirobo's head but the big man didn't even flinch as he swung his fist again. This time it caught Lee straight in the back and Lee was sent flying once again. Lee collided into another tree but with such force he broke completely through it, sending it tumbling to the ground like the last one. Fourth gate. Open. Lee quickly opened yet another gate so he could keep up with the incredible power of his opponent. He landed nimbly on the ground despite the pain he was in. "Just stay down." Jirobo was completely furious now as he charged at Lee and swung again. The attack hit Lee straight on but instead of being sent flying, he only skid back a couple feet. "I will not stay down." Lee shouted as he took a step forward and smashed his fist into Jirobo's face, causing him to stumble back slightly. "Trash." Jirobo regained his footing and swung his fist at Lee again. Lee matched his punch and their fists collided into each other. They both swung their left hands this time and their fists collided again. They swung at each other again and again, their fists colliding each time. "You can't keep this up forever. That gate is going to close. Not if I open another." Lee clashed fists with Jirobo once more before resorting to the last gate he could possibly open. Fifth gate. Open. He swung faster than ever before but to his shock, Jirobo stepped out of the way. Lee had no way to slow his momentum and carried forward, leaving himself completely open. "Too bad for you." Jirobo kneed Lee right in the stomach, rocketing him straight into the air and towards the branches of the towering trees. He could feel his consciousness fading in and out as he flipped and flopped higher and higher into the air until he started passing by branches. "I cannot let it end like this." Lee mumbled quietly to himself as he reached the height of his ascent and began plummeting back towards the ground. He angled himself so he was completely upside down and extended his right fist straight forward. "I am going to win this fight." He shook the blackness from the corners of his vision out. He was falling faster and faster straight towards Jirobo. "Have it your way." Jirobo smirked as he looked straight up at him. He had no intention of matching fists with Lee with that momentum though, he would just step to the side again at the last second. Lee would kill himself with the impact when he hit the ground. Lee was getting closer and closer with every passing second. Jirobo figured there was only another 5 seconds until impact and he would step away at 1 second. 4 seconds until Lee hit the ground. 3 seconds. At 2 seconds, something unexpected happened. Ura Renge. Lee bellowed at the top of his lungs. The speed of his fall doubled all at once as he kicked off of thin air. Jirobo had no way to react in time as Lee smashed full-on into him, creating a giant crater with the two of them at the center of it. After a few moments of nothing, Lee literally crawled out of the hole. Haha. I won. He pumped one fist into the air before dropping it. He lay face down in the snow. Jirobo hadn't had a scroll and he definitely wasn't getting back up. Sorry, Hinata. The rest is on you and Sasuke-san. Lee mumbled into the snow. Sasuke jumped from branch to branch as he chased after the source of that first arrow. Just as he could tell he was getting close, a second arrow fired off. Sasuke stopped on the branch he was on. He could see the arrow was attached to a thread filled with chakra, meaning the arrow was probably being guided. Using his Sharingan he was able to easily predict its path and dodged it at the last second. He then quickly followed the string right into the thick leaves that were concealing his opponent. He landed on the branch where the thread ended and was surprised to see no one was there. He had been tricked. Just as he thought this, he heard the sound of multiple clicking sounds. All around him, golden kunai were being fired off all at once. TCH. Sasuke ducked and weaved his way around the deadly barrage as his Sharingan scanned for any sign of his attacker. There. Sasuke shouted in excitement as his eyes finally locked onto him. He lost focus on the kunai for just that 1 second and it cost him as 2 kunai buried themselves into his back. Sasuke gave a cough of blood as 3 more struck him from the front. Another couple buried themselves into his right leg and a final one struck him in the head. His corpse collapsed to the ground. Got you. A transformed Kidomaru with 3 eyes said excitedly as he pumped his fist. You sure about that? All 3 eyes widened as a foot smashed into the side of his head. Kidomaru was knocked off his branch and sent falling to the forest floor. A living, breathing, Sasuke jumped after him. How? Kidomaru shouted in shock as he turned to see a log where the dead Sasuke had just been. Substitution. That's right. Sasuke was falling with his opponent. He spun around and delivered a spinning kick to his opponent's gut, followed by an elbow to the cheek and then a punch in his upper arm. Kidomaru howled in pain and swung blindly back at his falling opponent. Sasuke easily dodged all 6 arms with the use of his Sharingan and continued with his onslaught of punches and kicks. Now take this. Sasuke pulled a kunai out and just as he was about to plunge it into his opponent, they landed on something soft and sticky. What the hell? He, like my spiderweb. Kidomaru asked as he easily stood up on the web. He was completely unharmed from the viscous series of punches and kicks he had just taken. How the hell are you okay? Sasuke struggled as hard as he could be. He was completely bound to the web. You mean your pretty eyes can't see my armor? Kidomaru chuckled as he held his hand out. A thick golden armor that was similar to the kunai was being created as he showed it off. This armor is pretty thick. It's going to take a strong piercing jutsu to crack something like this. He walked around to Sasuke's head. Let's see you substitute your way out of this. He snarled before giving a swift kick to Sasuke's cranium. Instead of screaming in pain, Sasuke burst into a cloud of smoke. What the A shadow clone to? Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. A barrage of fireballs ripped apart the web Kidomaru was standing on and he was once again falling towards the forest floor. Sasuke appeared behind him, falling parallel with him. I told you, you can't get through my armor with just punches and kicks. Kidomaru laughed carelessly, unafraid of Sasuke. The last Uchiha merely smirked as the sound of chirping birds filled the area. I know, was all he said as he plunged Chidori into the back of his opponent, piercing his heart and killing him instantly. He pulled his arm out and flipped himself right before landing neatly on the ground. Kidomaru hit the ground hard, sending snow flying everywhere. Now let's see if you got a scroll. Sasuke began rummaging through his opponent's pockets. Got it. Sasuke exclaimed as he pulled out a white scroll. It's heaven too. This means we only got 1 scroll to go. He paused as he noticed his blood-stained hand. He then looked back down at Kidomaru. This was my first kill, he said before giving a slight deranged smile. I'm one step closer, brother. Hinata jumped off of the now destroyed branch as she dodged yet another swing from the giant doki. Dodging 3 opponents was a tricky task in of itself. But dodging 3 giant monsters while also trying to find the one controlling said monsters was a whole nother ballpark. She could only assume her opponent was masking herself with a genjutsu since she had to be in range of her Byakugan to be controlling the doki through music, but Hinata didn't have the time to disable a genjutsu. This meant she had to get off the defensive and fight the doki head-on. She landed on a nearby branch and kicked off right towards her opponents. None of them were capable of flinching in surprise, so naturally, they didn't. Instead they swung at her as she came into range of their attacks. Kaden. Hinata began spinning incredibly fast and deflected their strikes and them backwards. All the doki flew into different directions before each crashed into a tree. By the time Hinata stopped spinning, she had her bow out and 3 arrows ready to fire simultaneously. She let all 3 arrows fire into the doki with a club. A moment later, and the exploding tags attached the arrows went off and the doki was completely annihilated. That's one down. Hinata turned towards the other 2 doki that were already jumping towards her again. 2 to go. Hinata's bow disappeared in a poof of smoke as she returned it to the scroll on her hip. She waited for the doki to be on her before moving. She jumped over the one that had to swing its head to attack and placed herself right in between the 2 of them. The other doki swung its fist forward and Hinata ducked beneath it. The doki punched its companion in the head, knocking it off the branch they were standing on. Double Juken. Hinata stepped inwards and swung both hands forward, catching the remaining doki in the gut, also knocking it off the branch. She then brought her hands up and formed a single seal. Kai. She shouted as she disrupted her own chakra flow, breaking any genjutsus that might have been placed on her. Just as she did, someone became visible within her range. I found her. Hinata took off after the transformed Tayuya, who was on a branch just several meters above where Hinata had been. Damn, what the hell? Tayuya shouted in irritation as she realized she'd been found. Hinata said nothing as she drew 2 kunai and swung at her opponent. Tayuya deflected both strikes with her flute. She then swung her float forward and clocked Hinata in the side of the temple with it. Hinata stumbled forward and Tayuya tackled her onto the branch so Hinata's head was hanging off the ledge. Not so. Cocky now, or ya shithead. Tayuya sneered as she straddled Hinata and pulled out a kunai. She held it up to the young Hyuga's throat. I'm going to enjoy butchering your pretty little face. I'm going to be sure to take my time. This battle isn't decided yet. Hinata groaned from underneath her opponent. She lifted her legs and flipped Tayuya, who immediately tumbled off the branch, taking Hinata along with her. As the 2 of them plummeted towards the earth, Tayuya made to stab Hinata in the throat. Hinata grabbed the kunai just centimeters away from its target. Tayuya smirked down at Hinata. At the way they were falling, Hinata was going to strike the ground first. You're going to die one way or the other, princess. Just let me stab you in the throat and end it now, or you can live a couple more seconds in fear. You can't attack me with your juken if you have to hold my hand in order to survive. Whoever said I needed my hands to use juken? Hinata asked as she smiled. A moment later Tayuya gave a cough of blood as Hinata sent a body-wide juken strike into her body. With her opponent's guard down, Hinata took this chance to get the kunai away from her throat and swap their positions. Just a couple seconds later and they hit the ground, the kunai Tayuya had been holding buried itself into her own gut. Hinata had used Tayuya to absorb most of the shock, but she still could do nothing more than roll painfully off of her. Thankfully, they had landed in a thick patch of snow, but it wasn't helping Tayuya much at this point. Hinata. Lee was leaning against a nearby tree. Lee senpai, are you alright? Hinata attempted to get up, but it still hurt too much for her. Lee smiled painfully and gave her a thumbs up. I am fine, but I may have overdone it. I opened the 5th gate. The 5th. Lee senpai, you aren't like Guy sensei. It'll take you at least a week to recover from going that far. Hinata scolded as she attempted to sit herself upright. He wasn't an opponent I could go easy against. Lee stumbled his way up to Hinata and nearly collapsed in front of her. Hinata let out a tired sigh. Did he at least have a scroll? Lee shook his head. I got the heaven scroll. A third voice said as Sasuke landed right next to them. Lee and Hinata's faces both brightened as they seen the thing they'd come out for. Hey. You idiots still worried about scrolls? Tayuya spoke raspingly. Blood was leaking out of the corner of her mouth and where she had stabbed herself, turning the snow completely red. We beat the three of you. There's nothing more for us to be afraid of. Sasuke sneered down at her. Tayuya chuckled but instantly began coughing up more blood. When she was done she still smiled up at the three of them. You shitheads might not know, but the three of us were once Orochimaru-sama's elite guards. The three of them widened their eyes in surprise. And there was 4 of us, not 3. I'd be more worried about your teammates than a scroll right about now if I were you. Damn it. Sasuke yelled as he turned and immediately began sprinting off towards the place they had left their teammates. We have to hurry. Hinata stumbled to her feet and hoisted Lee up so he was draped over her shoulder. Just leave me, you have to help them. Lee urged Hinata on but she shook her head. You won't be able to fend off an attacker in your condition, we're going together. Hinata shouted as the 2 of them vanished into the thicket. Tayuya gave another small chuckle. Run as fast as you want, by the time you get there. They'll already be dead. Chapter 19. The Forest of Death Part 5. Are you always this much an idiot? Neji asked coldly. You wanna ask that again? Naruto grabbed the Hyuga genius by the scruff of the heavy jacket he was wearing. It may hurt like a bitch to pull out my chakra right now, but I think it might be worth it to put you in your place. Come on guys, you know we are supposed to be in hiding, right? Tenten gently chided both of the genin she was stuck with. The 3 of them were inside the hollow base of one of the many massive trees that covered the entire Forest of Death. This asshole started it. Naruto screamed in indignation as he turned towards Tenten. And I'm about to finish this. Neji stiffly rose to his feet, easily towering over Naruto who still held onto his jacket. Let's take this outside and I'll show you where you truly belong. Hey, fine by me. The 2 badly beaten genin ambled their way towards the entrance to the tree, and both almost stumbled on their way out. You got to be kidding me. Tenten rubbed her forehead in irritation. She really hoped the others got back soon. Naruto and Neji both seemingly just appeared out of the tree, as the entrance had been covered by a basic genjutsu. The flaw with the genjutsu was, it made it impossible to peer outside without the aid of enhanced vision. And when they stumbled out they both immediately saw a single boy with grayish hair and green lips smiling at them. How nice of you to come out to greet me, I've been looking for you. Naruto and Neji stared at him for a moment before they both turned back to each other. Naruto pulled him in close. I thought you were monitoring the area with your Byakugan. He whispered not so quietly. I made a point of shutting it off when arguing with you. I intended to kick your ass without it. Neji whispered back in just as loud a voice. Well that's just great, we're screwed now. Neither one of us are in any shape to be fighting on our own. Naruto had been intent on fighting Neji, but that was because he was just as injured as he was. Then we'll just have to kick his ass together. Even a loser like you should be able to win when paired up with a genius like me. Neji pulled back and turned to look at Saken. He was slowly walking towards them, the same creepy smile on his face. Naruto smirked. I don't like the way you worded that but for now let's just kick his ass. Naruto also pulled back. You 2 done quibbling and ready to fight? Saken asked as he stopped walking just 10 paces away from them. Now, Naruto asked as he also turned towards him. Now, Neji verified. With a loud battle shout from both genin they charged straight at Saken, hoping to catch him off guard. What the hell? Their tactic worked as Saken took a step back in surprise. It didn't take a doctor to see that these 2 were in no condition to fight at all. They both looked like the wind could knock them over. So when they charged at him he was definitely more than a little surprised. Take this. Naruto shouted as he swung his fist. Juken. Neji also attacked with his outstretched palm. Neither one anticipated what happened next. 2 extra arms extended from Saken's shoulders and they caught their own arms before they got anywhere near him. What's going on? Naruto shouted in surprise. Saken, you idiot, a deeper voice said from the back of Saken's head. It was then that Naruto and Neji took notice of the second head on his back. Are you really going to allow yourself to be blindsided by a couple of idiots? Saken gave a small chuckle. Hey, sorry brother, I wasn't taking these kids seriously. I won't make the same mistake. Are you 2 really fighting? Tenten shrieked as she stepped out from the inside of the tree. She had heard their battle shouts and immediately made her way out. As her eyes met with everyone else's, time itself seemed to stop. 10 whole seconds went by as she stared at him and they stared back at her. Tenten, get out of here. Neji was the first to regain his composure. After his shout, everything else sprung into motion. Tenten reached into her pouch and pulled out a couple shuriken. Naruto took another step towards Saken and raised his other fist. 2 additional legs came out of Saken's torso aimed at the blonde while the arm holding Neji lifted him off the ground. Tenten let the shuriken fly. The feet crashed into Naruto and Neji was thrown straight up into the air. Saken, get out of the way. Uken shouted, but Saken's body was already moving. He ran forward and ducked under all of the shuriken. He then continued to charge straight at Tenten. Damn. Tenten reached into her back pouch and channeled chakra into a scroll resting on top. A bow staff appeared in her hands. Just as Saken got within range she began to swing it but stopped and flinched. The movement had jolted her broken ribs. Too bad. Saken yelled as he swung his fist forward. 2 more fists extended from it as well and Tenten took all 3 of them to the cheek. Tenten. Naruto yelled as he stumbled up to his feet. A moment later and Neji hit the ground on the shoulder that his massive cut hard started from. He let out a loud scream in pain as he instantly grabbed onto it with his other arm and began to roll around slightly. Damn, what a mess. Naruto took off running, weaving his favorite seal as he did. Saken. The kid behind us storing up a lot of chakra. Saken spun towards Naruto and slid into a stance. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto shouted only for nothing to happen. He skid to a stop. You got to be kidding me. Saken broke into laughter. That's hilarious. You're suffering from chakra burns, you dumbass. Your chakra points have sealed themselves so you won't damage them permanently. You can't possibly fight me like that. Naruto grit his teeth together as he glared Saken down. Just watch me. Naruto broke into a dead sprint right at Saken. Well, what do you say, brother? Saken asked in delight as Naruto got closer and closer. Let's do it. This brat killed the Jinchuriki. I'll make him suffer good before I murder him. Uken's head sunk into Saken's body as he talked. You're always such a sadist, brother. Saken chuckled as he took a step towards the charging blonde. Bring it on, kid. You asked for it. Naruto got only a step away before he vanished completely. He's fast. Saken didn't get a chance to wonder where he had gone before Naruto's fist smashed into his cheek. As Naruto's fist drilled him, he felt Uken's presence leave his body and couldn't help but smirk. Naruto completed his punch and Saken hit the ground so hard he bounced before landing again a couple feet away. How do you like that? Naruto asked while smirking. I could ask you the same thing. Uken's voice whispered into Naruto's ear. Naruto spun around, ready to take an attack but to his surprise no one was there. Looking for me. Naruto again wheeled around but he couldn't see his opponent at all. Naruto. On your shoulder. Tenten yelled as she slowly struggled back up to her feet. My shoulder. Naruto turned just his head and saw Uken's head sticking out of his shoulder. Gah. What the hell? Naruto gave an awkward swing at the face but it quickly shrunk into his body. Oh no, that won't do. The head rose out of Naruto's stomach this time and Naruto stared straight down at it. I know, this is a genjutsu. Naruto brought his hands up in a sign and began to focus his chakra. Without warning, Uken's hands shot out from Naruto's shoulder and stopped Naruto from forming the seal. I'm afraid this ain't genjutsu. I'm actually inside of you. It's part of my Kekkei Genkei. Saken smiled evilly as his head vanished into Naruto's stomach. Uken's voice then came from right next to Naruto's ear now. Now that I share your body with you, I can end your life in any way I please. He then began to chuckle loudly. Naruto began to chuckle himself which immediately caused Uken's to cease. Share this body. You just made a big mistake, pal. You see, there happens to be one other thing that I have inside my body. Naruto grinned wickedly as he turned his head to face his opponent. What? Uken didn't have to wait long for his answer. He closed his eyes for just a second and it seemed like his whole world changed. Where am I? He spun around to take in the contents of the room. It was dank, dark and there were pipes everywhere. Naruto was also in the room and they both appeared to be standing on water. To his left was a giant cage with the word, seal, written on it. I asked where am I, damn it. Uken turned and charged at the blonde. Naruto, what is this that you brought me? Uken froze when he heard the huge voice. Perhaps an offering. It's been forever since I've had a meal. Ukin turned and slowly looked at the giant cage. A giant fox was glaring out at him, a hungry look in its eye. Kei Kyubi no Yoko. Ukin actually took a nervous step back. How did this happen? Why are you here? The fox glared down at the man before it turned his attention back to the blonde. Naruto. The fox whispered. Yeah, go ahead and eat him. Naruto set his hands on the water and it suddenly rose up around him in a violent wave that shot towards Ukin. No, stop. What are you doing? You can't even use ninjutsu. Ukin was still too shocked to react and was swept away by the giant wave. That wasn't ninjutsu. We are inside my mind, so naturally I can control the water in here without chakra. Naruto said while smiling at his opponent. The water carried Ukin past the bars and into the giant cage. Please no. Ukin finally got moving, but it was too late. You're mine. The giant fox roared as its head descended on the Oto shinobi. The boy gave one final yell before the fox swallowed him whole. There. Now don't ever say I don't feed you. Naruto grumbled as he turned away. I'm afraid leaving won't be an option for you. Naruto. What did you say? Naruto immediately spun back towards the Kyubi. He didn't like what he saw one bit. The strange purple chakra that his opponent had been emitting now swirled around the giant demon. Crap. Naruto muttered as he realized he just messed up. On the outside only a couple seconds had passed that Ukin had disappeared into Naruto's body and Sakin was making his way over to Tenten. Neji. Tenten. Sakin swung around to see Sasuke break free from the foliage as he ran into the clearing they were all fighting in. He skid to a stop as the scene came into view. Sasuke. Tenten yelled. You have to help Naruto. One of those things went inside. Right. Sasuke took a step towards the blonde but Sakin got in his path. Not a chance, asshole. Sakin settled into a taijutsu stance and Sasuke did the same. Before either of them could move, red and purple chakra exploded from Naruto's body in a tornado that caused everyone present to stumble back in surprise. What the hell is going on? Sakin held his arms in front of his face defensively as he turned around to face the malevolent storm of chakra. Brother, where are you? His brother gave no response. You bastard. What did you do to him? Sakin roared at Naruto as the chakra around him began to settle. A dark chuckle came from Naruto's mouth but it didn't sound like the blonde at all. Brother. That look-alike of yours. I ate him. When Naruto raised his eyes to meet Sakin's, the older boy instinctively took a step back. Naruto's eyes were a deep red and his pupils were slit. You're not the same brat we were just facing. Who are you? Sakin's fear was quickly replaced by anger as he took a step forward. Who am I? Sakin's eyes widened as he realized the voice came from behind. Before he could turn around he was blown off of his feet by a powerful punch to the face. He hit the ground so hard that his body skipped and came down again. This happened several times until he rolled to a stop. I am the Kyubi no Yoko. Strongest Biju in existence. Naruto roared. Naruto. Sasuke stared in shock from where he lay on the ground. He still couldn't bring himself as he watched what happened. Naruto-kun. Hinata shouted as she ran into the clearing, Lee still draped around her shoulders. What happened to him? Lee asked as he watched the dark chakra spin viscously around his best friend. How is the chakra getting through? His chakra points are being ripped apart by whatever it is that's happening. Neji was struggling against the chakra so he could stand up. Sasuke continued to stare at Naruto for a few seconds before he took a deep breath. Give me just a moment, I'll get him. He then took off running towards Naruto. Sasuke-san. Wait. Lee shouted but Sasuke wouldn't listen. Kyubi no Yoko, don't make me laugh. Sakin stumbled up to his feet. Even if you have gotten stronger, you've gotten awfully full of yourself to be saying something like that. Oh, would you like some proof? Naruto tilted his head a little as he spoke. Maybe I should kill you with just my chakra. Try it. Sakin began running straight at the blonde who now had a huge smile on his face. Just remember, you asked for it. Naruto stretched his arms out in front and two whips of red and purple chakra shot forward. What the? Sakin stopped for just a split second but it was long enough for the chakra to reach him and wrap itself around his neck. Gah! He gave a choked cough as he tried to talk. His body was hoisted into the air as he was being strangled to death. Naruto. Stop it. You don't need to go that far. Sasuke was nearly at the blonde. Naruto's head turned towards Sasuke curiously. An Uchiha, interesting. With an audible snap, the chakra around Sakin broke his neck and let his corpse fall to the ground ungracefully. I'll enjoy killing you next. Sasuke wasn't sure what he was doing, but he charged at Naruto with all his might, the tomo of his Sharingan spinning wildly as he stared into the blood-red eyes of the blonde. Then, everything changed. Sasuke blinked a couple times to adjust his eyes to the new scenery that he was seeing. A giant cage was in front of him with a strange stream of chakra leaking out of it. It was made of the same color that had enveloped Naruto. He followed the stream down to what looked like a cocoon of chakra. What is that? Sasuke took a couple nervous steps towards the giant ball. Ah, what an interesting day. I'm getting all kinds of visitors. Sasuke spun his attention towards the cage. What he saw made his knees go weak. A giant fox was glaring down at him. I'm impressed your Sharingan is at a level that would let you enter here. Kyuubi no Yoko. Sasuke whispered. He had heard Naruto call himself that, but now it made sense. The Kyuubi was in control of Naruto's body. Sasuke turned his attention back to the cocoon of chakra. That means, Naruto is in there. With newfound determination, Sasuke walked towards the orb. Just what do you think you're doing? The fox roared. I'm freeing this idiot. Sasuke knew he should be surprised that he was talking to something that wasn't even supposed to be alive. However, the fact that it wasn't dead, and what's more, sealed inside Naruto, it made perfect sense to the last Uchiha. I'm afraid freeing him is impossible. The Kyuubi chuckled as Sasuke stopped right in front of the giant cocoon. You see, my chakra will burn anyone who touches it. Naruto is the only exception to this. I have to try. Sasuke didn't even hesitate. He sunk both his hands into the cocoon of chakra. A quiet hissing sound reached his ears and Sasuke grit his teeth, but he ignored the pain. You fool. Don't you dare. Kyuubi shouted in anger now. I have waited 13 damn years for this moment. I won't let you ruin it. As the Kyuubi yelled, whips of red chakra fired out from behind the cage. Sasuke spun his head to the chakra and glared at it with his Sharingan. As if by magic, the chakra streams withered out. No. The red chakra that had been mixed in with the cocoon also withered away and now only the purple chakra remained. I see, Sasuke said as Naruto became partially visible. He appeared to be sleeping inside. You were using this purple chakra as a catalyst to sneak your chakra through that seal. I bet normally it is impossible for you to force it past. You bastard. Kyuubi rammed into its cage, which rattled heavily from the force, but Sasuke ignored it. He grabbed a hold of Naruto's arm and gave a giant heave. Naruto flowed out of the chakra like it was made of jello. When Naruto's head broke free of the chakra, his eyes shot open. Sasuke? He asked in confusion as the Uchiha ripped him completely out and they both tumbled to the floor made of water. Naruto coughed as he pulled his face out from the surface. Sasuke, how did you get in here? I don't know, Sasuke said in between coughs himself. He pulled himself out of the water so he was sitting on it. I just did. Naruto sat across from him and both boys stared at each other for a minute before they broke out laughing. Quiet, Kyuubi roared as he rammed his cage again. Remember this, Uzumaki Naruto. I'll be free one day. That Uchiha won't always be around to suppress my chakra. Man, what a loud mouth. Naruto got to his feet. What do you say, Sasuke? Let's get out of here. Sasuke nodded as he also got to his feet. Yeah, our teams are waiting for us. Both of them blinked and suddenly they were back in the forest as if nothing had happened. Naruto-kun. Naruto was nearly bowled over as Hinata ran straight into him and engaged him in a huge hug. Can't I ever get a normal hug from you? Naruto asked while laughing. He returned the hug before he felt his body start to ache all over. What did you do? Lee asked as he appeared next to Sasuke. The Uchiha shook his head. I just entered his mind. I don't know how. He gazed down at his hands and recoiled at the sight. They were burnt badly. Lee followed his line of sight and frowned. I take it whatever happens in his head happens outside as well. Yeah, it was a surprise to me too. I wouldn't have let Kyuubi eat that guy if I would have known he'd actually get eaten. I was just going for a scare tactic. Naruto rubbed his head in embarrassment as he butted in on their conversation. You let what eat who? Naruto cringed as he slowly turned towards Tenten. Neji was also staring at him for an explanation. The village's biggest secret was quickly becoming less and less secret. Off in the distance, Kabuto was staring at the group through a set of binoculars. He let out a cruel smile. That went exactly as planned. Perfect. He lowered the binoculars and formed one seal. A moment later and he burst into a cloud of smoke. On close to the opposite end of the forest, the original received the memories of the clone he had sent out. He was surrounded by 5 corpses, 3 of them with a Kiri headband, the other 2 with a AIM-1. Dosu and Zaku were sitting on the 6th and still barely living shinobi. Kabuto suddenly began chuckling, causing Dosu and Zaku to look up at him. Did the sound 4 get them? Zaku asked with a huge grin on his face. Kabuto turned towards them while adjusting his glasses. The light reflected off them, making it impossible to see his eyes. The sound 4 are dead. What? Zaku was on his feet only a second later. How is that possible? They were Orochimaru-sama's elite guard. They were fools and underestimated their opponents because they were genin. The same fate that befell Orochimaru, really. Kabuto slowly began to walk towards them. Besides, this is perfect. Now they have 2 Earth Scrolls and only 1 Heaven. Odds are, they'll kill each other before this exam is over. Speaking of scrolls, with these guys' scrolls, we now have 3 Heaven and 2 Earth ourselves. Zaku proudly pulled out the scrolls he had received from the 2 teams. Let me see those. Kabuto held his hand out and Zaku obeyed immediately. The second they touched Kabuto's hands they lit on fire. What are you doing? Zaku asked as he took a step back in shock. Dosu meanwhile watched in complete silence. He was beginning to see a pattern to Kabuto's behavior. We don't need those. Take these ones. Kabuto then handed Zaku another Heaven and another Earth scroll. I need you 2 to head to the tower and pass this exam. If all goes well, Kimimaro will be the one to retrieve you when you present the scrolls. What about you? Dosu asked, although he already had a feeling. I am going to kill off anyone still in possession of a scroll. The less teams passing, the better. Kabuto adjusted his glasses again, making his eyes visible now. There's a problem. Zaku yelled suddenly. Kin is dead. How can we possibly pass? Kabuto smirked as he gestured towards the barely living AIM genin. Allow me to show you a forbidden jutsu. Day 4. So what is our plan now? Tenten asked as she leaned against the trunk on the inside of the tree. Morning was just coming up and the 2 teams had yet to decide anything. We have less than 2 days and our situation has only gotten worse. Neji responded as he looked around at everyone. How has it gotten worse? We have a Heaven Scroll now. Naruto shouted as he glared at Neji. We are down to only 1 capable fighter on each team. Neji shouted as he stomped the ground. Not to mention, having that scroll is more of a curse than a blessing. If neither team finds another scroll before midnight tomorrow, then we are going to have to fight to see who goes on. Sasuke stared down at his bandaged hands. What are you proposing, Neji? I say we defeat them now and take the scroll. Everyone looked up at him and saw he was deadly serious. If that is what you want to do, we will not hold back. Lee stared at his eternal rival bitterly. What had happened that he seemed to fall even further into the darkness? Not a chance. Tenten shook her head fiercely. We owe them for everything they've done. We wouldn't be here if not for them. They owe us just as much. Neji shot back instantly. Sasuke is the one that found the Heaven Scroll. Sasuke is the one that stopped their teammate from releasing the most powerful Biju in existence. Then that means we are even. Hinata mumbled quietly. Sasuke disagreed. As far as he was concerned, he owed them at least 1 more. Silence settled over the group as they all tried to think of another alternative. Why don't we just head to the tower? Naruto asked, getting everybody's attention. What are you saying? Lee asked his best friend in confusion. It makes sense, doesn't it? Naruto began to elaborate. If any team wants to pass they have to go into the tower. That means any team that shows there should already have both scrolls. If we wait for them, we could ambush them and take their scrolls. Hinata finished. That's brilliant. Tenten shouted suddenly. I didn't think you had it in you, Naruto. She reached over and patted the blonde on the shoulder. What if no one comes? Neji asked suddenly, immediately putting a damper on the mood. What if everyone who is going to pass has already done so? You said it yourself, we're down to only 2 capable fighters. Naruto locked eyes with Neji as he talked. What are you suggesting? Sasuke asked as he looked back and forth between the 2. A duel. Neji clarified. Hinata-sama versus Sasuke. No way. Several voices shouted at once. It's the only way. Everyone was surprised. Naruto and Neji had been fighting right up to the last minute for the whole time they had been around each other. Now they were the only two in agreement. We'll wait until the final hour of the last day, Neji started. If no one shows up by then, Naruto continued. We'll duel for the scroll. They said together. Lee let out an exaggerated sigh. It really might be the best plan of action. I say we do it and just hope someone actually shows up. Tenten finally gave a small nod as well. As long as we wait as long as possible. Hinata and Sasuke locked eyes with one another. They were the only two left with the strength to fight. They would be the ones that had to duel. We'll do it. At the border of the Forest of Death, teams 8 and 10 sat rather uncomfortably around a fire. All 6 of them were staring outside the gates, just looking at lush grass and probably warm air. This sucks, why can't we leave? Ino whined loudly. Not too much longer and we'll be able to. Kiba rubbed his hands together in anticipation. We can get Shino to a hospital immediately. Sakura looked over at Shino. The bug user was lying on the dry grass where snow had once been before they managed to melt it and dry it out. His soft breathing was the only indication that he was sleeping. I'm surprised he can sleep at all. Choji wasn't sure what he was chewing on, but it was delicious. Kiba and Akamaru had caught and gutted it for them. His bugs must have him on some heavy stuff. He needs it. Shikamaru was gazing up at the night sky. You could actually see the stars from here. Wish I could have some. How do you think Naruto and Sasuke's teams are doing? Sakura suddenly asked. Everyone mulled over the thoughts of the two teams quietly. I'm sure Sasuke-kun is going to pass without a problem. Ino shouted as she pumped her fist in the air. Go, Sasuke-kun. If that jerk passes, then Naruto and his team are gonna pass for sure. Kiba folded his arms and shook his head. He had never really liked Naruto before, but something about him now made Kiba just want to root for the guy. Naruto was pretty heavily injured, for our sakes. Sakura pulled her legs closer to her body. Lee and Hinata are no pushovers either. Shikamaru finally turned his gaze away from the sky. If anyone could find a way to pass, it would be them. Choji finished chewing on his food. You should know, you spar with them in the mornings. Sakura and Kiba looked at him in surprise. They hadn't known that. Yeah, and it's such a drag. Day 5. The time had come. Teams Guy and Kakashi had managed to make it to the tower just before dusk on the 4th day. All 6 of them had sat right in front of one of the double doors leading to their salvation. At least one member from each team was up at all times. Hinata and Neji kept switching turns watching with their Byakugan, waiting for someone to come into their sight. Night had passed and the sun had risen. No one had come. The sun had set again and still no one. Now they had mere minutes until the 23rd hour of their last day. It's time, Neji said as he leaned against the wall to help himself up. Can't we wait, just another half hour? Tenten pleaded as she also gingerly got to her feet in front of Neji. No, we agreed on waiting on up to the last hour. We can't afford to waste any more time. Neji responded resolutely. Tenten could only avert her eyes as she backed down. Unfortunately, Neji is right. Lee too had trouble getting to his feet. We agreed on this time, and it would be unythful to go back on our word. You ready? Naruto asked as he turned towards Hinata. She got to her feet without any problem at all. I'm ready. She nodded, determination in her eyes. I guess this is it then. Sasuke also got to his feet without any problems. Only one team is going to pass. One by one, he looked at each member of Team Guy. It wasn't right, it didn't feel like he should be having to fight them. He still owed them at the very least, once more. Yet it had been decided. He was going to fight, and that meant no holding back. Slowly, both of them walked into the snow-covered clearing in front of the tower where they had agreed to have their duel. Tenten also began to walk out with them. Hinata and Sasuke stopped once they were halfway between the tower and the trees. They then turned so they were facing one another, roughly 15 paces apart. Tenten stood right in the middle between the two of them. Tenten cleared her throat. The rules are as we determined earlier. Hinata will have the heaven scroll tied to her right forearm. Sasuke will have the earth scroll tied to his right forearm. To win the duel, the only thing you have to do is break the string that holds the scroll on your opponent's arm. You can use any means necessary. Do you both understand? Hinata and Sasuke nodded silently. There is a little more. As it was agreed that I would referee, I hold the second Earth Scroll, which is why Sasuke was given Earth as well. In the occurrence that Sasuke wins the duel, I will hand over the one I have to Lee. Again, Hinata and Sasuke nodded. Alright then, when this kunai hits the ground you may start. If either of you move a second before it hits, your scroll is automatically forfeit. Without waiting, Tenten threw the kunai high into the air, causing it to vanish into the darkness almost instantly. She also began to retreat as quickly as she could before it fell back down. I'm sorry it has to end this way, Sasuke-san. The veins around Hinata's eyes grew thick as her bloodline limit activated. Believe it or not, me too. Sasuke's black eyes blazed red and 3 small tomo appeared around the pupil. Sharingan and Byakugan. Natural-born genius and genius of hard work. Sasuke and Hinata. The 4 spectators watched with held breath for the match to begin. The kunai hit the ground with a thunk and both genin were on the move instantly as they charged straight at each other. Juken. Hinata shouted as she swung her left arm forward. That won't catch me. Sasuke shouted as he jumped straight into the air, well over Hinata's attack. He began weaving a set of seals. Fuden. Shinkaha no Jutsu. Sasuke inhaled deeply before exhaling a sharp gust of wind. Kaden. Hinata instantly began spinning and her rotation deflected the sharp blades of wind easily. Sasuke began descending towards the ground and as he did he pulled out several shuriken. Hinata's spin came to a stop and when it did she already had her bow drawn and fired an arrow straight at the falling Uchiha. Sasuke threw his shuriken and then formed a lone seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He created a clone just beneath him that he kicked off of. They both barely dodged the arrows and landed on either side of Hinata. Hinata dropped her bow, twirled a kunai out of her pocket and deflected the shuriken with it. Just as she deflected the last one, both Sasukes began to charge at her. Hinata weaved a single seal as well. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A second Hinata appeared back to back with the original. Both Sasukes skid to a stop. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that you also know that technique. They said simultaneously. Of course, it is Naruto-kun's favorite technique. Both Hinatas immediately ran forward at the same time. The Hinata and Sasuke on the right engaged in combat first as Hinata jumped in the air and delivered a spinning kick. Sasuke blocked the strike with his forearms and pushed the attack back. Hinata landed on the ground just as Sasuke threw a punch. Hinata ducked under it and swung both palms forward. Sasuke front flipped over the strike and brought his foot down on top of her head, smashing Hinata's face into the ground as he did. A moment later and she popped out of existence. Sasuke turned to the other two fighting just in time to see Hinata dispel his clone with a strong Juken strike to the chin. Hinata then turned and immediately charged at Sasuke once again. Kaden. Hosenka no Jutsu. Sasuke shot out a burst of fireballs that scattered as they flew towards his opponent. With a yell, Hinata dove feet first at the ground and used the slippery slow to easily slide underneath the fireballs and close the remaining distance to Sasuke. She tucked and rolled, pulling a kunai out as she did. Sasuke whipped his own out and swung downwards as Hinata landed in a crouch in front of him. At the same time her kunai was swinging upwards. Their attacks weren't aimed at anything vital but rather the scrolls. Time seemed to slow for everyone as they watched. This was it, the deciding moment. Hinata's kunai and Sasuke's kunai passed one another and they both made their ways directly for the scrolls. Neither had enough time to pull back so one just had to be faster. Only a foot to go and it was impossible to see who would win first. 6 inches. 3. Just 1 inch to go and something happened that neither had predicted. With a loud pop, someone appeared right in the middle of the two of them and grabbed onto both of their arms. Spinning around he instantly threw them towards both of their teammates. Hinata. Naruto yelled as he and Lee barely managed to catch her. Tenten and Neji were bowled over as Sasuke crashed into them. All 6 genin quickly scrambled to see who had interfered. Not a single one of them liked what they saw. Hey, we meet again. Kabuto gave the whole group a casual wave as he smiled brightly at them. It's you. Naruto shouted as he pointed dramatically at him. You're the bastard that Sirius hurt Asuma-sensei's team. It's also your fault that everyone else attacked us. It's because of you I had to fight Gaara. Now, those are some incredible accusations. Can you prove all those things were my doing? Kabuto continued to smile brightly at the assembled genin. I've done nothing but help you this entire exam. I assisted your sensei in killing Orochimaru. I sent those shinobi that had the heaven scroll after you, knowing you'd defeat them. I've also wiped all the other teams out for you. Everyone widened their eyes in shock. Don't worry. I didn't touch the two teams sitting by the fence. They posed no threat without a scroll. Now then, do you trust me a little? Kabuto asked as he took a couple steps toward the team of genin. Like hell we do, Naruto shouted as he took a step forward. Before he got any farther, an arm was barring him. What the hell? Naruto turned to see it had been Sasuke. Take it, Sasuke mumbled as he shook his arm lightly. Huh? Naruto asked as he looked to Sasuke's hand. The heaven scroll was in it. Sasuke. Neji shouted suddenly. Take it and run, Naruto. Sasuke pushed the scroll into Naruto's hand before he took off straight towards Kabuto. Despite the fact that he knew he was likely charging towards his death, he smiled. With this, he had fully repaid them. No, Sasuke. What are you doing? Naruto took another step forward but it was too late. With a flick of his wrist, Kabuto hurled a projectile straight at Sasuke's head, knocking him over and onto his back. The Uchiha stopped short in surprise and wasn't able to react in time as it hit him square in the middle of the forehead. Sasuke. Naruto shouted as he began to charge forward. You bastard, I'll rip you apart. Naruto-kun, wait. Hinata shouted but Naruto wasn't listening. He was going to rip Kabuto apart, chakra or no chakra. You'll pay for killing Sasuke. You idiot, I'm alive. Naruto suddenly stopped short as Sasuke sat up and looked at him. What? Naruto stuttered. But, the kunai, your head, I don't understand. I didn't throw a kunai, I told you. I'm on your side, Kabuto said as he adjusted his glasses. Then what did you throw? Naruto wasn't following this anymore. Was this Kabuto guy good, or was he evil? He threw this. Sasuke stood up and held the heaven scroll into the air. So then, Tenten said as she realized what it was. Both your teams can now pass. Congratulations. Kabuto gave them a short wave as he turned around and began to trek out of the forest. Wait, why did you help us? Lee shouted after him. Kabuto kept walking as he answered. To keep things interesting. I hate being bored. He walked straight into the trees and vanished from their view. All 6 genin turned and looked at one another. They then looked at their scrolls. They had 2 heaven and 2 earth. They could all pass. Well, see you guys inside, I guess. Tenten awkwardly smiled at Team Guy as she scratched the back of her head. Yeah, Hinata and Lee mumbled as well. Come on then. Neji turned and limped up to the door. And Sasuke, we need to talk. Right. Sasuke straightened himself out and walked straight towards the double doors. Hey, Sasuke. Naruto yelled, causing the last Uchiha to turn around. He waited as Naruto awkwardly shuffled his feet before finally looking up and giving him a huge grin. Thanks. Sasuke gave a soft smile of his own. We're even. That was all he said before entering into the tower. The doors swung shut behind him, leaving Team Guy out by themselves. We better get going too. Hinata said quietly as she made her way to a different set of doors. Yosh. Team Guy comes through at the last minute using the power of youth. Lee seemed to completely forget about his injuries and torn muscles as he practically skipped to the tower. Hey, Hinata. Naruto asked as he walked up next to her. He felt her hand bump in his and he immediately grabbed onto it. She was shaking pretty badly, showing how nervous she had been. Yes, Naruto-kun. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Who do you think was going to win? You, or Sasuke? Hinata titled her head up as she pondered Naruto's question. By the time she reached an answer they were already inside and standing at the very end of the room. I think it would have been a draw. She said with confidence. A draw? Naruto asked as he scrunched his face up. That's no fun. I think you had him for sure. As he talked, Hinata and Lee unraveled the scrolls so they crossed each other. Smoke billowed out like before and a figure stepped out from it. Yamato-sensei. Naruto smiled brightly at one of his several teachers. Yamato smiled down at the team in front of him as he checked his stopwatch. Congratulations, you 3. You pass. Chapter 20. Reprieve. Team Guy and Team Kakashi now stood lined up next to one another in a giant arena on the top floor of a tower. The Hokage, Zabuza, Haku, Yamato, Kakashi, one shinobi with a bad cough, and one strange-looking Otogakur shinobi with white hair and 2 red dots above his eyes were the only other people in the room. Is this everyone that passed? Naruto shouted in curiosity. Patience, Naruto, the last team is walking in now. The Hokage said loudly enough for him to hear. Only one other team. Naruto couldn't believe so many had been knocked out as he turned to see who was walking in. Impossible, Hinata whispered as her Byakugan activated instantly. Dosu, Zaku, and Kin all strolled into the room, their heads held high. Sorry we're late, Dosu said as they took their place in line. We overslept a little. Naruto leaned in next to his girlfriend. Is she an imposter? He asked her in little less than a whisper. Hinata nodded. She has to be, but it's not some common henge, I cannot tell the difference at all. The fake Kin looked at them and gave a sly smile. Something wrong? She asked in a voice that sounded exactly like what Hinata remembered. No, nothing, sorry. Hinata turned her head away and looked back to the front. She kept her Byakugan on and noticed Sasuke was looking at her with his Sharingan as well. She turned to him and gave him a small nod. He returned it and they both deactivated their eye powers. Now that we are all here, we shall begin to explain the third exam to you. The Hokage said as he stood up. The 9 of you will fight in one-on-one matches which will be witnessed by people from all over the world. You will all be fighting to show the strength and promise of your country. So, on that end, the final exam will be held 1 month from now. What, we're not going to fight right now? Naruto shouted curiously. No, we will need the month to make preparations. We must inform the leaders from other countries who has passed and give them time to arrive. This month should also be used by you lot. Spend this month learning about your opponents, and about yourself. The Hokage finished his explanations. Alright, I need you all to take a piece of paper now. The coughing ninja said as he took a couple steps forward, holding up a box. My name is Hayate and I am the proctor for your third exam. I will be judging your matches a month from now. The shinobi started with the Otogakur team. Haku stood right behind him and wrote the names of the participants down as they drew a number. Next he moved on to Team Guy. Lee was the first one to draw a number. Naruto drew one next, and Hinata was the last. Ah, man, this sucks. I drew number 9. That's the last one, Naruto said in irritation. What about you guys? I drew number 4, Hinata said as she held up her number. I drew 5. Lee held his up as well. What, does that mean you two have to fight each other? Naruto asked in panic. Actually, it means we don't have a chance of meeting until the last round. She'll fight 3 and I'll fight 6. Lee explained. In fact, as 9, you and I will fight before either of us reach Hinata. Man, this really sucks. Naruto pouted. Not as bad for 7 and 8. One of them has to fight an extra round. Lee explained. Not if one of them is dead. Hinata said purposely as she sent a quick look over to the fake Kin. Alright, I will now announce the matches. Hayate said right before he went into another coughing fit. Maybe I should do that, Haku said as he spun the board around for everyone to see. Round 1, Hyuga Neji vs. Abumi Zaku. Neji nodded and Zaku smirked slightly. Round 2, Tenten vs. Hyuga Hinata. Both looked quickly at each other with wide eyes. Round 3, Rock Lee vs. Kinyuda Dosu. Lee pumped his fist in the air and Dosu eyed his opponent up and down. Round 4, Tsuchi Kin vs. Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke smirked slightly and Kin made no outward reaction. The winner of that round will receive a quick break but must then fight against Uzumaki Naruto before you may move on to the next bracket. Haku finished. Are there any questions? He then asked. No one said anything to his relief. Then you are all dismissed. We will contact you on the whereabouts of the final exam at a later date. The Otogakur team immediately began to shuffle out. Hinata started to walk after them but Haku grabbed a hold of her. I am also aware of what happened to that Oto girl. Hokage-sama has decided to let it play out. We are interested in seeing what this Kabuto has planned. Your sensei will explain more, he said in a very low voice. Hinata nodded her head. Where is Gai-sensei? Lee asked as he leaned in close to them. I thought for sure he would be here to see us pass. Your sensei has been hospitalized for excessive use of the gates. The Hokage himself answered as he stood in front of the team. He is just fine, he added as he noticed the worried looks. He just needs his rest. In fact, it looks like you three could use a trip to the hospital. We'll have you taken care of immediately so you can begin your training. The Hokage beckoned a couple of medics over. Right this way, they said as they extended their arms. All three genin nodded and began to follow them. Kakashi's team was being led away by a separate group. Ah, Naruto. The blonde turned around when the Hokage called for him. I need to speak with you for a minute. Naruto looked at his teammates and saw they were both looking at him in concern. He shrugged. You guys go ahead, I'll catch up. Are you sure? Hinata asked as she touched his hand with hers. Yeah, it'll just be a couple seconds. I bet the old man just wants to tell me how great I did. Naruto smiled reassuringly at them before he turned around and walked up to the Hokage. Zabuza and Haku were also standing there with him. So what's up, old man? Naruto asked as he crossed his arms behind his head. Might Guy would make you run laps for such disrespect. Zabuza let the threat hang in the air as Naruto instantly straightened out. The Hokage nodded at the three of them. As all three of you probably know, Suna was planning to invade with the aid of Otogaku. However, the moment they discovered Naruto killed their Jinchuriki, they have made it clear that no such attack is being planned anymore. With Orochimaru dead, I don't expect Otogaku will make a move either. However, the fact that their genin team passed leaves some doubt in my mind. Do you believe them? How can you be sure they won't attack? Zabuza asked suspiciously. In Kurigaku, just knowing they planned to attack is warrant enough to make the first strike. Whether I believe them or not, I have no intention of being the first one to move. If they want a battle, let them bring it to us. Konoha shinobi are stronger when we have something to protect. The Hokage looked them all in the eye seriously. I don't understand, why are you telling the three of us all this? Haku asked, his confusion evident. Naruto-san and I are just genin. I am telling you this because Tsunagaku has offered us a kunoichi and insists that we accept. She is the daughter of the Kazekage and is currently in your apartment. Naruto, Haku, and Zabuza all shared a look. A girl in their apartment. This couldn't be good. What do you plan to do with her? Zabuza asked, hoping to find a way to get rid of her. Well, I was hoping that if you would accept, I could place her as a genin on your team. Zabuza looked startled by the sudden offer. Are you asking me to become a Jonin sensei? He asked for clarification. I assumed it was what you wanted. After all, you have taken Haku-kun's training seriously. It wouldn't hurt to add 2 more, would it? The Hokage couldn't help but smile as he noticed. Haku's face began to brighten. If you are asking, I cannot refuse, Hokage-sama. Zabuza inclined his head lightly. He hated kids, but this might be a good way for him to start getting missions out of the village. So I'm really going to be on my own team? Haku asked in an uncharacteristic display of excitement. You mean I'll have my own team? Zabuza pointed to himself. None of this explains why she is staying with us. Put her with someone else. Naruto said as he looked back to the old man. I am currently setting some things up, however, Tsunagaku was insistent that until I do, she stay with the one they regard as the hero of their village. The Hokage looked down at Naruto sadly. Hero? Who? After asking that question, Naruto noticed all 3 of them were looking down at him with pity. Me, because That's enough, Naruto-san. Haku patted his friend on the shoulder. The Hokage tilted his hat slightly. I am sorry, Naruto. Naruto felt tears slide down his face. Damn them all. Might Guy loved many things. After all, it was a most youthful practice to love as much as you could. It wasn't a good feeling when you were filled with hate. Yet, at that moment, none of that mattered. At this precise moment, Guy knew only one thing. He hated hospitals. Let me go right this minute. I demand it. Guy bellowed as he attempted to leap from his bed the umpteenth time that day. No, you can't. The doctor shouted back. He stood far back and watched as a miniature army of nurses wrestled the stubborn, youthful man back to his bed. My students. I have to know if they passed. I don't have time to be lying in bed. Guy managed to break free from the nurses and get off his bed, but he didn't get far. He stumbled and fell to the ground almost immediately. The doctor sighed and pushed up his glasses. I am telling you this for your own good, Guy-san. Look at you. You're covered from head to toe in bandages. You don't heal overnight after opening 7 gates of the Hachiman. Normal men go into a coma from the burden that puts on your body. Isn't there anything you can do? I need to see them. Guy picked himself back up but the nurses were on him, already dragging him back to his bed. I'm not Tsunade-sama. The most you can do is wait. If they are anything like you, I'm sure they passed. The doctor wanted to sigh in relief as Guy let the nurses tuck him back into bed without protest. Unfortunately for him, Guy's students happened to walk in only a moment later. They had all been healed and already looked fighting fit. My students. The nurses sprung into action as Guy again attempted to leave his bed. Get off me. Nothing will restrain me from giving my youthful students a hug. Nothing, damn it. Guy broke through the nurses with ease and ran at his students. Guy-sensei. Lee cried happily as he spread his arms wide. Naruto and Hinata reluctantly gathered in and let their sensei pick all three of them at once and spin them around in a bone-crushing hug. My students. I feel 20 years younger just seeing your faces mostly unharmed after dealing with such an ordeal. Guy finally set the three of them down and inspected them each in turn. Did you all pass? They all looked at one another before turning back to him and giving him a big smile. Of course we passed, they all said, although Hinata was of course drowned out by her two loud teammates. Excellent. I knew you would. Guy went to hug his students again but he collapsed backwards. Guy-sensei. They all shouted as they scurried over him. The doctor merely let out a tired sigh. Can I ask you three to put him in his bed? If you do, I'll let you visit him a little while longer, but please try to keep it down. All three of them nodded as they picked their sensei up and laid him down in his bed. As they did, the doctor and all the nurses quietly left to go check up on other patients. Thank you. Guy gave his students a nod. We should be thanking you. You really saved us in the forest, Guy-sensei. Naruto waved it off while Lee and Hinata nodded in agreement. Well, I got to get going myself. I have some stuff to take care of at home. I just felt I'd come let you know I'm alright. I should also get going. I wish to pay the other rooms a visit before I return home. Hinata bowed to Guy as she talked. Guy nodded in understanding at both of them. Thank you for coming to see me. Report tomorrow at our normal time. We are going to begin your final training. Right, they all said together. Lee turned to them just before they left. I am going to stay with Guy-sensei a while longer. I look forward to our meeting tomorrow. See you then, bushy brow. Naruto gave a last wave as he and Hinata stepped into the hallway. Haku and Zabuza stood waiting for him. Sorry about the wait. We can head out now. About time. Zabuza grumbled as he turned and began to walk down the hall. Haku smiled apologetically at Hinata before taking off after him. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Hinata. Naruto nodded towards his girlfriend. I'll see you then, Naruto-kun. I love you. She leaned in and kissed him quickly on the lips. I love you too. Naruto stuttered out, his face turning red. Hurry up, brat. I gotta go, Naruto said as he took off after his roommates, leaving a smiling Hinata. She also had a small blush on her face as well. She watched him go until he disappeared around the corner before she went to where she knew Team 10's room was. She gave a quick knock. Excuse me, Shikamaru-san. She called. The door immediately swung open, to reveal Choji. Ah, Hinata. How nice of you to come visit. Don't be shy, come on inside. The big boy quickly led Hinata inside of the room. Hinata quickly followed him into the room. Hinata. Ino waved exaggeratedly with the one arm that wasn't completely bandaged. Ino-san, you're doing fine. Hinata was surprised by how cheerful that blonde girl was. Of course. Being in this bed is so much better than being caught inside that frigid hellhole they call a training ground. I can actually eat the food here. Ino continued to swing her arm around as she talked. Kiba caught some really good food. Choji yelled as he continued to chow through a bag of chips. You guys are forgetting the most important thing. Shikamaru sighed at his team. Did your team pass? Oh yeah, and what about Sasuke-kun? Of course it was Ino who said that. Hinata smiled and tilted her head. Both teams passed. I knew he would pass. Ino screamed as she pumped her fist. Congratulations. Shikamaru and Choji said together, ignoring their female teammate. Thank you. Hinata said as she bowed to them. I am going to check up on Shino-san's team now. Have a good day, you three. Hinata slowly backed out of the room. Later. They all said together. Hinata closed the door and pulled out a small sheet of paper. The room number for the other rookies was written on it. Hinata made her way to the room and knocked on the door. Barking was heard from the other side and the door was swung open to reveal Sakura. "Hinata, did you pass?" Sakura shouted right away. Hinata gave a big nod and Sakura let out a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. She led her over to where Shino lay quietly, his arm still missing, however, now properly bandaged. "I am glad to see your arm did not get infected while it was out in the forest," Hinata said as she took a seat. "There was never a cause for concern. My Kikaichu were injecting antibacterial into my body the whole time we were out there." Shino replied in monotone. "I just can't believe you can be so calm." Hinata knew she would be beside herself if she had lost her arm. "Bah, he's always like this. Nothing phases the guy," Kiba said from his chair. Sakura sat down in the seat next to him. "I'm glad," she said. "I would rather he was calm than freaking out and blaming us. As I told you before, the only one at fault for my arm was myself," Shino said as he nudged up his glasses. "I would not listen when you said not to bargain with him. I'm just glad Naruto came around when he did," Sakura said quietly. Hinata tensed up when she mentioned his name. Hinata wasn't sure what had happened in the forest between her and Naruto, but Sakura was definitely acting a lot different about Naruto now than before. "Quit talking about Naruto like that, I swear you've fallen for him," Kiba grumbled with a disgusted look on his face. "And no," Sakura said almost a little too quickly, a blush spreading on her face. "I just don't think anyone else could have been able to beat him," Sakura said even more quietly. The worst part was, he wasn't even trying to kill him. He was trying to reason with him the whole time. "That's downright stupid if you ask me." Kiba leaned back in his chair and slipped it onto two legs. Sakura brought his chair farther back without warning and Kiba was sent tumbling to the ground. "Don't insult him like that for caring about people. You could do with being a little more sensitive yourself, Kiba." Sakura was red with anger. "Are you sure you don't like him?" Kiba asked again as he rubbed the back of his head. Akamaru whined as he walked up next to his master. "Why you can't?" Hinata suddenly shouted, a heavy blush on her face. "Can't what?" Sakura asked in confusion. Shino and Kiba both looked confused as well. Hinata pressed her fingers together and took a couple of deep breaths. You can't like Naruto-kun because, he's my boyfriend." Silence met her statement as Kiba and Sakura stared at her with mouths agape. Shino's surprise was harder to see but his eyebrows were visible well above his glasses now. What?" Kiba asked as he got to his feet. "What do you all see in that idiot?" "I don't like him," Sakura insisted at her teammate before whirling back on Hinata. The Hyuga girl was blushing heavily from her outburst. "Hinata, Naruto saved our lives. My opinion of him has definitely changed but I'm not in love with him," Sakura pleaded as she stared right into Hinata's eyes. "I believe you," Hinata mumbled, averting her gaze. "I apologize for my outburst, I just got scared you were going to try to take him from me. He used to like you so much." "If I may," Shino adjusted his glasses as he spoke up. "I am not close to Naruto-san, but judging by his personality, he is not one who would lightly do something that would hurt his friends. I am positive you have nothing to worry about." Hinata nodded. "I know. Naruto-kun is kind. I just got myself worked up for nothing." Sakura waved her hands defensively. Hey, it's nothing to worry about. You've heard Ino and I go at it over Sasuke-kun. When emotions get involved, things get all jumbled up." Hinata nodded again and an awkward silence settled inside the room. Kiba cleared his throat in an attempt to break it. "So, who confessed to who first? Man, I can't wait to spend a night in my own bed." Naruto, Zabuza, and Haku stomped their way up the stairs that led to their apartment. "I'm more interested in this girl who is currently staying in our apartment." Haku followed in the far back of the group. "Let's get rid of her as fast as possible," Zabuza said with resolve as he trailed in the middle of the group. Yeah, shouldn't be hard for you," Naruto mumbled as he unlocked his door. He swung the door open. It was completely dark on the inside. "Must not be home." Naruto yawned as he stepped in and fumbled for the switch. Footsteps reached his ears just as he hit the switch. The lights came on and to Naruto's surprise a blonde, tall girl was running at him with a kunai. "Die," she shouted as she swung it at him. "What the hell?" Naruto shouted as he dove into the inside. "Hey, wait." He turned around and saw her swinging the blade low. "You got it all wrong." Naruto jumped into the air and landed on his couch. The blonde girl jumped on the couch after him and continued to swing the small blade. I'm not an intruder. Naruto stumbled off the couch and onto the ground. The girl dove after him. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, he shouted while rolling away. The kunai sunk dangerously low into the floorboard. She picked it up and snarled at him. This is my apartment. Shut up. I already know all that. The girl shouted as she charged back at him. Then why are you attacking me? Naruto continually dodged more swings as he jumped backwards and began circling back around the couch. For killing Gaara. For killing my brother, I'm going to kill you. Naruto stumbled backwards when she said that sentence. Temari jumped and straddled herself on top of him. She brought the kunai high above her head. Die. That's enough. Zabuza's hand came out of nowhere and grabbed the girl's hands before they could descend and plunge the kunai into Naruto's heart. Don't interfere. This is something I have to do. Temari struggled to get her hands free. I don't understand. Haku had watched the whole thing with mild interest until Naruto had tumbled. He had been about to jump in when Zabuza vanished and appeared next to them. I thought your whole village hated Gaara. Why avenge him? I did hate him. I was afraid of him. Tears began dripping from the girl's eyes. But he was still my brother. No matter how hard I tried to be happy he was gone, I couldn't. Gaara, the tears fell onto Naruto's face, who lay there unmoving. Let her go, Zabuza. The blonde boy finally said. Zabuza gave a small grunt of surprise and Temari's eyes shot open. You want to kill me for killing Gaara? Naruto stared straight at Suna Kunoichi with complete composure. Then do it. I won't fight back. I regret that I killed Gaara too, but what I regretted even more was that I let someone die who didn't know what it was like to be loved. Zabuza looked back and forth between the two for a moment before he let Temari's hands go. Zabuza-san. Haku took a panicked step forward as Temari's hands fell to her sides. Let them do what they want. You heard the brat. If he wants to die on the floor like a dog, then let him. I'm too hungry to deal with this. Zabuza turned and strolled off towards the kitchen. I'll really do it, Temari said as she brought the kunai back above her head. I won't blame you. I'm glad I found at least one other person that cared about him before I died. Naruto didn't even look at the kunai. He stared directly into Temari's eyes. The girl closed them before giving a blood-curdling scream and swinging the kunai down. Naruto-san. Haku couldn't watch. He took a step forward and drew his Senbon needles, but it was too late. Temari had struck the floor right next to Naruto's head. I haven't forgiven you. Temari stumbled up to her feet. Nor do I accept being a kunoichi of this village. I only came here because my father ordered me to. That's fine. Naruto sat himself up. He hadn't closed his eyes even when the kunai had descended towards him. Is ramen the only thing we frickin' have in this place? Zabuza yelled as he slammed a couple cupboard doors shut at once. How long have you lived here and you're just figuring that out? Naruto deadpanned. Screw it. I'm going out to get something to eat. Don't kill one another while I'm gone. Zabuza stopped at the door. On second thought, maybe things will be a little quieter if you do. With a loud laugh, Zabuza disappeared. The door was left wide open. What's with that guy? Temari asked as she looked around for an explanation. They both shrugged. It's Zabuza, they said together. Is everyone here in Konoha that weird? I have yet to meet someone normal. She sighed as she plopped down on the couch. It's Konoha, they said together. Temari turned and glared at them. She then let out another sigh. Why am I stuck in this village? Why couldn't it have been Kankuro? A quiet knock on the open door caught all of their attention. All three genin spun to see Sakura standing in the open doorway. Hey, she mumbled, tucking a strand of her long pink hair behind her head. Sakura, what are you doing here? Naruto asked in surprise. How did you even know where I lived? Hinata told me, Sakura answered. She had yet to move from the spot. I just wanted to stop by and give my thanks. My team's thanks. We owe you so much for saving us in the forest. As she talked, her eyes trailed over to Temari. Naruto looked back and forth between them, an idea slowly forming in his mind. Sakura, this is Temari. She was Gaara's older sister. I know who she is. Sakura and Temari's eyes were locked with one another. Good, then you'd have no problem with taking her in for us then. Haku turned to Naruto in surprise. No way. Both Sakura and Temari said simultaneously. Come on, you just said you owe me. Naruto dropped to his knees and clasped his hands together. He also looked at Temari as he did. And do you want to live with 3 guys in a single apartment? Temari seemed to ponder this for a moment. Naruto had a good point there. She turned to see Sakura also seemed to be seriously thinking about what he said. Sakura let out a sigh. I don't like you and I don't know why you're staying in the village, but if you need a place to stay, I'm sure I can convince my parents. Temari slowly stood up from the couch and walked into the back room. Everyone watched with curiosity to see what she was doing. A moment later and Temari returned with a set of bags in either hand. She walked straight up to Sakura and dropped them down. I'm in your care, she said, extended her hand. Right. Sakura shook her hand. This squares us, Naruto. Sakura yelled a little louder. Got it, got it. Naruto waved it off. I'm sure we'll be seeing you around, Temari. You're going to be on Haku's team after all. Whatever. Temari picked up her bags and walked out. Have a good day. Sakura bowed to them before shutting the door and running after her. With the door shut, Naruto and Haku turned and looked at one another before they both broke into huge grins. Naruto-san, you continue to surprise me. I surprise myself sometimes. Naruto gave a huge yawn as he began to stroll off towards his room. Now if you'll excuse me. I have a bed with my name on it. He was going to have to get up early tomorrow, his real training was about to begin. Dosu slowly walked through the underground labyrinth that was Orochimaru's hideout and base of operations for the assault on Konoha that was supposed to happen in just a month. Kabuto walked just in front of him and Zaku and an undead kin walked to either side of him. He still couldn't believe Kabuto had managed to bring her back to life. The question now was, what was he going to do with her? Another thing Dosu had never realized was how many people there were in the organization. That was, until he walked into the giant room that they were having their emergency meeting in. The reality that they were actually an army of shinobi finally hit him. They stood up on a massive wooden stage that had been constructed. He wondered how Kabuto exactly planned to explain everything that had happened. Furthermore, how were they going to be able to attack? Kabuto hadn't told them anything. Kabuto smiled wickedly as he looked out over the faces of all the shinobi that were under his control. They just didn't know it yet. He shouldn't even say faces. One thing about being a Otogaker shinobi was the requirement to wear a full face mask. Only the eyes were visible of all the shinobi present. That was the way it should be. An army of faceless nobodies, expendable pieces of trash. Shinobi of Otogaker. Kabuto spread his arms wide and spoke in a booming voice. He had to restrain himself from saying the last word sarcastically. A village. They were nothing more than a group of rogues. Yet Orochimaru had been insistent on them being a village. It was pathetic really. Probably the Sannin overcompensating for the fact he was unable to become Hokage. Kabuto brushed these thoughts aside and continued talking. I bring you grave news. No one breathed a word. Orochimaru-sama is dead. Kabuto had to hide the big smile he wanted to show as gasps and murmurs echoed throughout the vast room. What are we going to do? We cannot invade Konoha without him. One man yelled. With Suna having turned against us, surely attacking now would be suicide. Another man yelled. Now Kabuto had to keep the disgust from showing. Who did these people think they were? As if their lives meant anything. If he told them to actually commit suicide they were expected to do it. If not, he would just give them a little help. Instead of saying any of this aloud though, he held his hand up and silence slowly resumed back over the crowd. You say that without an ally we have no chance. Without our leader there is no hope. Kabuto looked around and saw a couple brave, foolish souls nod. He would take care of them later. I say otherwise. Orochimaru-sama planned to use a third-rate Jinchuriki and fight the Hokage on his own. Yet the Jinchuriki was killed by a genin and he was murdered by a mere jonin. Does it sound like his plan had any hope of winning to begin with? Kabuto smiled as people started shaking their heads now. I have a different plan. We will not rely on some outside force. Instead we will destroy them from within and using our own materials. Kabuto shouted. You see, Orochimaru-sama didn't have the designs for a secret weapon that I have. Secret weapon? Someone else in the crowd shouted curiously. Kabuto's grin got bigger. The group was starting to get excited. People were so easy to control. That's right. We are going to mass produce this weapon and achieve victory. Konoha and all the other nations will shake in fear before this power. What about our lack of manpower? Kabuto adjusted his glasses. Orochimaru-sama only wanted to use our shinobi stationed in the Land of Fire. I have given the call to pull in every shinobi we have from around the continent. People's murmurs got louder as they began to see a glimmer of victory in Kabuto's words. What about the problem with the Jinchuriki? Someone else shouted. Orochimaru-sama failed because he wanted to rely on the Ikibi. That's why he recruited Suna. Kabuto stared everyone else in the eyes. I, however, plan to rely on something much more powerful. Better yet, something already within Konoha's walls. Kabuto paused for dramatic effect. We will use the Kyuubi. Roars of approval erupted from the men. Kabuto basked in the sounds of their confidence. He had a good feeling, he wasn't going to lose. Kabuto turned and began to walk off. He would have to set them all on constructing his secret weapon right away. Hey, what is this weapon? Zaku asked curiously as he bounced around in excitement. Kabuto quickly led the group of genin into a hallway. Kimimaro appeared from behind them. You'll see soon enough. Kabuto nodded to Kimimaro, who placed a hand on Zaku's shoulder. Follow him. We are going to perform some more surgery on you. He shall prep you for it. So I'm going to get stronger? Zaku asked, a greedy gleam in his eye. Kabuto only had to nod and Zaku happily followed Kimimaro away. What about us? Dosu asked, a bad feeling in his gut. You should be asking about yourself. Kabuto raised his hand and formed a single seal. Before anyone could react, he said a single phrase. Kai. Dosu watched in shock as Kin crumbled apart into dust. What did you do? He shouted as he looked down at the remains of his teammate. I released her soul. These tags aren't easy to make and she served her purpose. Kabuto gave an evil smile as he pulled a kunai with a strange tag on the end of it out of the pile of dust. I'll have to inform Konoha that Kin is going to be sick the day of the tournament. Dosu eyed Kabuto warily now. For all he knew, he would be done in next. Now then, this is for you. Kabuto pulled out a syringe needle with a dark purple fluid inside of it. What is that? Dosu took a hesitant step back. This is the cursed seal extract that Orochimaru had planned to give to Sasuke. If you survive the injection, you'll have the powers rivaling that of the Sound 4 and Kimimaro. Kabuto took a step closer and placed a hand on Dosu's shoulder. What do you say? I don't need it. Dosu shook his head, but Kabuto's smile only got bigger. You don't have a choice. Naruto, Lee, Hinata, and Haku all stood waiting for Gai-sensei to show up. It was already 15 minutes past their usual training time. Hinata shut her Byakugan off and shook her head. I guess Gai-sensei won't be showing up after all. He is hospitalized. He'd have to sneak out to come train us. Haku didn't doubt it happening though, and he was exactly right. Good morning, my students. They all turned to see Gai standing proudly in the clearing. Although, he shouldn't have looked nearly so proud, being he was using a crutch to support himself. Gai-sensei. His three students shouted happily. Unbelievable. Haku shook his head but smiled anyways. No time to dawdle, my students, we must be going. Gai turned and started limping away from the clearing. Going? Several of them asked at once. Yes, I will be taking you to a special place to conduct your training for the exams. Gai turned and gave them all a shiny smile. Where? Lee asked excited. It's a secret. Gai smiled and wagged his finger. He then frowned slightly at Haku. I apologize, but I am going to ask that you sit this training out. Haku nodded in understanding. I have a feeling you are going to be gone for a while. Gai's smile got even brighter. That's right. We're taking a trip out of the village for our final training. I would appreciate it if you would let their training partners and senseis know. I also noticed that Shikamaru-kun isn't around. He needs to be hospitalized for another week. Hinata explained immediately. I'll let him know as well. When should I expect you back? Haku made some mental notes. He was going to be busy today. The day before the start of the tournament. Gai answered before he continued his trek. We'll see you, Haku. Naruto ran off excitedly. He couldn't wait to start this new training. Let Ayame know for me. Lee shouted. He knew she was going to be pissed. He hadn't had a chance to come and see her after the Forest of Death. Not to mention he hadn't even been back in whole day, and yet he was suddenly leaving the village. Also inform my clan that I have not been abducted. Hinata bowed to him before she took off after her team. I got it, I got it. Haku ran his hand through his hair. He was going to be busier than what he thought. Then another thought suddenly hit him. They weren't taking any supplies or a change of clothes. Just where were they going that guy would take them without those essentials? They were going to be gone a whole month after all. Haku shrugged the thought off. No need in worrying about them. They always did things differently, after all.